what time it is. Buckle up and enjoy the ride.
And we are live. Greetings to our loyal WFYL listeners around the world. Welcome back to your Philadelphia live stream, only on the Freedom Station. I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in once again, because you still have the right to hear and the right to be heard. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mike G. As always, with me are Philly Chris, Russ the producer, and Liberty Lee. And you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters. And you can listen to our program every Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. So let's be heard. I want to remind our listeners that you can participate in the free and open exchange of thoughts and ideas throughout the entire week by visiting MikeGinTheMorning.com. What's it called, Philly Chris?
MikeGinTheMorning.com.
Russ, are you with us?
MikeGinTheMorning.com.
Is Liberty there?
MikeGinTheMorning.com.
So tell your friends, tell your family, tell your barber, tell your Uncle Jerry, tell anybody who listen to check us out at MikeGinTheMorning.com. I also want to remind our listeners of the powerhouse lineup we've got here at the Freedom Station. We've got Ben Shapiro bringing you the Ben Shapiro Show weekdays from 3 to 5 p.m. We've got Scott Adams coming at you weekdays with the Scott Adams Show, 9 a.m. until noon. We've also got a brand new addition to the WFYL family, if you will, the Dan Bongino Show, coming at you weekdays from 12 right until Ben Shapiro. And finally, we've got Michael Knowles bringing you the Michael Knowles Show weekdays from 5 to 6 p.m. So don't forget to tune in and show him some love. And with that, you know what time it is. Buckle up and enjoy the ride. Hit it, Russ.
You know what time it is. Buckle up and enjoy the ride.
We have a very, very special guest with us for this program. Robert Borelli, from Mafia to Ministry. He's here to share his story with us, how he left a life of crime, found Jesus Christ, and what he's doing today. Mr. Borelli, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you, Mike. Thank you for allowing me to be on your show. I appreciate it. Really do.
It is an absolute honor. Mr. Borelli, do you mind if I call you Robert?
That's what everybody else calls me, yeah.
Okay. Is that what your friends call you?
Yes.
All right.
The
Sounds
few
good.
that I have left.
Well, you've always got friends on the Mike G in the Morning program. You know, we want to be respectful. Come from an old school Italian family in Brooklyn. You know how that is, right?
Yes.
So I want to talk a little bit about your story. Some people might see things about your story, running with the Gambinos, things of that nature, and want to jump right into that. But I'm curious about who Robert Borelli is, and wanted to learn a little bit more about your upbringing, where you grew up. So why don't you tell us a little bit about where you came from?
Okay. Well, I came from Brooklyn, New York. You know, Fulton and Rockaway was kind of we used to have a game called the F&R, Fulton and Rockaway. And actually, we used to have a song, F&R on the hill, never ran and never will. Front in the east, front in the west, F&R is still the best.
You still got it.
Anyway, but that's where I grew up, and I didn't know it as a young kid, though, but was really from the early 1900s, ran by the Gambino crime family. And you got to remember that I didn't know a lot about that. The only thing I seen was and how I try to explain it, the best way I think I could explain it, is that I had like three types of people in my life that I could think about or want to maybe be like. And my mom and dad, my family, they had 5 children. It was a low class neighborhood. It was actually called the Hood. So there was always arguments in my family sometimes about the finances, not having enough money to buy the kids school clothes or, sneakers or things of that nature. So at a young age, I didn't want what they were doing. They were just regular workers. They worked hard, but it was a minimum kind of wage job that they were doing. Um, and then you had the guys. I don't know if you remember. I'm sure you do. You kind of look a little bit younger than I am, but we had the Vietnam War, the Korean War. I'm not sure which was coming back in the like early '60s, middle '60s, and a lot of the guys from my neighborhood who got drafted when they came back was either on alcohol or drugs, and so I didn't want to be like them growing up and seeing that in the neighborhood. So I didn't want that. But then, you had these guys. Now, we call them wise guys today, but they were just regular guys hanging out in a social club which was a storefront from an apartment downstairs from the apartment building on the bottom floor. And they had their club there, and it just seemed like they got all the respect from everybody in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, I was a kid, so I really didn't understand it fully at that point in time. But I did see that they kind of protected the neighborhood. When a lot of people had problems, whether it was financial, whatever kind of problems they might have had, these guys were always there looking out for people. If there was any trouble in the neighborhood, they took care of the trouble in the neighborhood. I could tell you that I've witnessed where police officers, there was kind of a mutual respect with the police officers. In them days, they walked beats, and they would even ask them for help if there was a lot of mischief going on in the neighborhood at that point in time to try to calm it down. So I gravitated more to that. Fighting gangs was always part of the thing in Brooklyn. I mean, you could go back to, I think, back in the maybe the 80s or 70s. I'm not sure when the movie The Warriors was made,
right,
about Brooklyn and all that. Well, that's kind of a little bit realistic. Now, they really stretch it a lot farther than the truth on that show, but that was kind of how it was. You had maybe a 4-block radius, where if you went outside your neighborhood, you knew there was going to be a fight or altercation or something like that. We didn't know a lot. I wasn't brought up as like knowing what racism was or anything like that. But I was brought up that you kind of stood with your own kind. That's how it was implemented to me. My family would say, you just stay with your own kind. You marry your own kind and all those kind of things. So in my neighborhood, it was dissected. It was diverse. You go 4 blocks one way, where there was the black neighborhood. You go 4 blocks another way, Hispanic neighborhood, German neighborhood, and so forth and so on. And I could explain all that. So
this was divided not only into races, but into ethnicities, so nationalities and things of that nature.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's a better way of explaining it. Those are kind of like words I'm not familiar with.
You got to forgive me. I'm just a kid from Brooklyn like you. Now, I do want to ask this, Robert. You said that you were from the hood in Brooklyn. What neighborhood specifically were you from?
It would be considered. I think they changed it like 3 times. That's how bad it was.
Oh, wow.
As far as I remember, it used to be Brownsville. And
okay.
Then I think it became like part of Bedford-Stuy.
Brownsville's Mike Tyson, right?
Somewhere like that, I guess.
Yeah, Mike Tyson. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. So tell us a little bit about what your family life was like, because you see these different groups of people. You said one of them being your family. What was it like growing up in your family in the hood?
Well, let me just tell you the neighborhood itself. Brooklyn, my part of the neighborhood, I don't know how it was outside of other neighborhoods in Brooklyn. Brooklyn was a pretty large area, but you can't describe my neighborhood. There aren't words to describe it as far as the closeness. People hung out on stoops. My mom and people would come over and they bring coffee downstairs and they put it on something and people would have coffee and conversation. The kids were always outside until mom whistled. Well, my mom didn't whistle anyway, but called you from the window when it was time to eat. And then after, when the lights went out, like the street lights went out, it was time to go home, which was about 8, 9:30, somewhere around that time. And that's just how it was. But there was a lot of neighborhood, and I've been a lot of places in the since then, and I've never found anything like Brooklyn, New York, to be honest with you. The relationships were just really that strong in the neighborhood. So it was good. I mean, I loved the neighborhood. Unfortunately, I fell on the other side of it. I was attracted with the wise guys. They had all the things that a kid that was struggling or with families or whatever it was that was going on with your family would gravitate towards that. They had nice clothes, they had diamonds on, they had money in their pocket, fancy cars. And then back in them days, my family might have had 2 or 3 cars in their lifetime. That would be the extent of it, you know.
Come from a real working family, working parents.
Yeah, they worked home. My mom, in the beginning, when we were all younger, stood home and took care of us, and Dad went to work. I remember that, that part of it. And then as I got a little bit older, I had a younger brother that was born 8 years after me. And then when he was able to go to school, I would take him to school. Then my mom did a part-time job, but then eventually she had to do a full-time job to just make ends meet.
What kind of work was your dad involved in?
My dad was a bookbinder for a printing company.
Gotcha. Because a lot of kids, they grow up idolizing their parents, and to have somebody who's got that work ethic, somebody wakes up, goes to work every day. That's got to be important growing up, no?
It was, and I respected my dad, but it wasn't what I wanted. I didn't want, I just didn't want that for me. And seeing the guys in the neighborhood and them taking a liking to me and making me run errands for them, and that was the start of everything for me, the glamour and the glitter of
Right.
all the lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle that, despite the crime, is glorified to an extent, right?
Well, I mean, come on, we see all the movies, and I was and back in the days, you had James Cagney, Edwin G. Robinson, Humphrey Bogart. There was a lot of mob movies, Angels with Dirty Faces, So I've seen it. I can't say this for everybody because it wouldn't be right, but I emulated a lot that I seen on TV,
And those kinds of things had an impact on you. And, my dad was always the kind of guy growing up where he said, like the De Niro from Bronx Tale character, be like the working man, right? That's the true hero, the working man. Were your parents actively involved with your upbringing? Were they on top of you?
He wasn't in that point of time, but you see, you said your dad was like Robert De Niro. Well, I was more like C.
Okay.
Hanging around with the wise guy, going to the card games, getting tips, bringing money in, and stuff like that. So that's kind of. But if you've seen the Bronx Tale, that will kind of be, kind of like the life, because basically, in all reality, I grew up with some of those guys. They were a different family, but we were still, associated with one another in different ways.
And it's an attractive lifestyle to somebody who's growing up and maybe doesn't have a lot of money in those neighborhoods, right?
Well, yeah, it was. To me, it looked like. Listen, I was very attracted to it, and I wanted to be like them. That's the bottom line. I left school, and I mean, in the 9th grade, I was supposed to keep going to school because I was too young to get out of school, but I never showed up anyway. And then finally, my mom gave up, and they said, well, if you're not going to go to school, then find a job. And at the age of 16 years old, when I got pulled, I quit school, and they don't have much of an education, and we could talk further about it, and we'll have time to talk further about it, how God has worked some miraculous things in my life, or things that I would have never dreamed of or even thought of.
Absolutely. There's only one way, right? Only one way.
Amen.
For those of us just tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. So, Robert, moving forward, where is it in your life that ultimately you cross that line? You cross over into, I'm now involved in a life of crime. How did it start?
Well, at an early age, I was the boys in the neighborhood were a little bit older than me, so I was like the puny kid, so to speak. So in order to prevent people from picking on me, I would act a little bit more, I wouldn't know how the word, but more violent, let's put it that way. I would pick up a stick, whatever I had. Them days it was fair fighting, but everybody was bigger than me. So to me, the way I would level out the fairness would be picking up a stick or a bottle or a garbage pail or something like that. And I was considered the rough, tough kind of young kid. And the guys that seen it, that were outside the social clubs that were kind of like around the neighborhood, kind of took a liking to me. And I would be like C, I would go into the club, I would serve sandwiches, get some tips, and kind of like put some money in my pocket. And I might have been about 13, 14 years old at that point in time. And then as I got out of school, uh, I did go to work, and then I ended up meeting somebody who their father was one of the original wise guys from the neighborhood. And I clinged to him, and then he was bringing me around his dad. And I have to explain it like this way because I was so excited and so, I don't know the right word to say, to be honest with you, but enticed with that kind of lifestyle, that his dad would have every Friday night. He would have a big spread where people would come over and have a meal with him on Friday nights. And because he would allow his son to come there, his son would bring me with him. And I am sitting down with all these big earners, these money guys, and seeing all the respect that this guy, and his name was Fat Andy, and I got permission to use his name from his son. That was, well, of course, we didn't call him Fat Andy to his face. That's how we address him, as Fat Andy. And I mean, that's how if we were mentioning his name, it would be Fat Andy. But Andy Ruggiano was his name. And all the respect that he got, and that was just like, wow, man, I want that. I want that. So what I did from that point in time was we would hang out in bars, and I was just trying to build a reputation for myself, so people would fear me and respect me. And that was a big thing. Probably the biggest part of my life was having people to fear me and respect me.
So where does the criminal activity begin? How do you start out? You usually don't start with a homicide or something like that, right?
No, that has happened in my life, but basically, like I said, running around doing errands and then policy numbers. Back in them days, they would have people. You didn't have off-track betting. You didn't have the legitimate numbers game that they have today. So everything was through the mob, really. So people who were struggling would bet 10 cents, on a number or something like that. I see my mom do it. She would give me a slip with a couple of numbers on it, and then maybe $1, and I would bring it to them. And they seen all that, but that's just kind of how I did. So now, as I got a little bit older, I got involved with selling fireworks for them. Then I got involved with policies, picking up slips and money for them and bringing it to them. And then the gambling with the track betting, and of course, we didn't have OTB, so they would bet with these guys if they couldn't make it to the race. Everybody was just trying to get ahead, and gambling was one of the biggest things. And it goes back for a lot of years with the gambling thing. Now, the government made a lot of it legitimate, so it's really a little bit harder. But the only thing the government don't do is they don't give you credit.
Well, I'll tell you this. It sounds like you started out with a bunch of truly victimless crimes, right? These are, and I don't want to knock the rule of law or anything like that, but what I'm saying is you're not hurting somebody, you're not stealing from somebody, you're not doing anything of that nature. These are really, like you said, the government sanctions it in certain contexts. So it's something that if you got this license, you got this piece of paper where the government gives you permission, it's actually okay.
It's okay when you tax it.
But that's just kind of how it was. So it was small like that, and then as I got a little bit older, wanted a reputation for myself, and then we bar fights, hanging out in bars. If somebody came into a bar that I was hanging out in and started trouble, it was being directed towards me, that you're disrespecting me. I hang out here, you can't do that here. And then that led to probably, back in 1973, and just to make everybody understand, I am no ways glorifying my past.
Right.
In no way, shape, or form. But this is the reality of my story. In 1973, somebody tried to fight with us, and he ended up getting killed, and I was wanted for that murder. And that guy, Fat Andy Ruggiano, took care of me and his nephew and hid us away for like a year and a half.
Wow.
So that was, I like to say that was my, and I don't even know if the right words to say it, so I don't want to really, but it was kind of like the only way I could describe it is my claim to fame in the Gambino crime family, because now they're the ones that are taking care of me. So now I owe them a lot of respect, and I owe them a lot. You know what I mean? Because they hid me out for a year and a half.
Well, how old were you at that time?
I was 18 years old at that time.
Wow.
So 18 years facing that kind of a case. What's that like?
Yes. at the age of 20, I was arrested for possession of a weapon and 2 murders at the age of 20 years old. Now, when you go back to the mid 70s, that was, you didn't hear of young kids that age getting locked up for those kind. Matter of fact, you didn't hear a lot about those kind of crimes. Today it's a lot different, but back then you didn't hear of it. So I end up getting locked up, and I have to lay up in jail, and I kept my mouth shut and didn't say nothing. Waited to get in front of the right judge. That they told me, just wait, we'll get you in front of the right judge. Make sure you get a bail, and then we'll help you get bailed out. And that happened like after about 4 months. And because I kept my mouth shut, because I didn't talk to the authorities, because I wasn't crying like a little baby, they bailed me out, and I was paraded around after that as the up-and-coming star in the Gambino crime film. That's the exact words that one of the guys used. They would introduce me to O'Neill Della Rose and Paul Castellano, and not mentioning guys' names that they're not alive. So, but they would bring me around these type of people who were bosses and underbosses, and say he's up-and-coming star in our family. That's how they introduced me.
So when you're going through all that as, a teenager and someone who's in their young 20s, a young man by any measure, and you're dealing with the prospect of facing life in prison, was there any point, and I'm asking this from the perspective of a criminal defense attorney who deals with these types of cases, was there any point where it crossed your mind that maybe I should take a plea deal? Maybe I should, for the practical sense, if anything else, take a deal and see if I can get off more lightly than I would if I got sentenced?
Well, between all 3 of those cases, I could, because you're an attorney, you'll understand. This is what we had to do. Because one of the murder cases before the gun case and before the second murder that I was charged for, we made a deal. I took a plea for the gun, 1 to 3 years. They couldn't sentence me until after the murder cases were over, because then they could use that conviction against me if I went to trial. They offered me, the first offer was, at them days they had zip sentence. They called them zip to 12 years was the first offer. The bottom line was when my lawyer came to me and said, this is what they're offering you, I did consider it. I said, all right, let them know that, I'll go home and talk to my friend. They said, no, you have to make a decision right now.
Wow.
And I got so upset that I told them in a loud, vulgar voice what they can do with themselves. And so that was canceled. And then my lawyer said, okay, tell me the truth. And I would tell him the truth that I wanted him to believe. Let's put it that way.
Wow.
But one of them I really didn't do, but I was arrested for. And I can tell you honestly that one of the detectives that arrested me for one of those murder cases said, I know you didn't do it, but if you don't tell us who did, you're going to take the rap for it. And I said, well, then I guess I have to take the rap for it. And then the other one, I was part of doing it, not the only one that did it, because it was a big fight. A lot of people were involved in it. So I just didn't take any pleas. And the bottom line is I went to trial on the murder that I didn't do. I went to trial with 5 eyewitnesses against me, and they all lied, and they were all destroyed on the stand. And I ended up getting acquitted of that case. And then the second murder case was dismissed because back in 73, the law was you had to have 2 eyewitnesses. I'm not sure if I'm correct on that, but I believe that was how my lawyer explained it, but they only had 1, so they had to dismiss the case. They couldn't bring me to trial. I got locked up for the 1 to 3 case. My attorney appealed it. I spent about maybe 7 weeks in jail, got an appeal bond, and then had the case thrown out on appeal.
Wow. And I don't think many people understand that people plead guilty in these situations for reasons that have nothing to do with innocence or guilt. A lot of people hear that somebody pleaded guilty and say, oh, well, clearly they did it because they pleaded guilty. But there are all these practical considerations that run through people's minds in cases where perhaps they were not guilty, but they don't want to face the harshest of sentences. There are all kinds of practical reasons why somebody would plead guilty. So in your situation, to ride that out and see that through, that takes a tremendous amount of courage. What was it like going through that?
Well, I have to tell you that I don't know if I was just that stupid or that naive of what I was facing at that point in time. But I truly believe everything that these people mentored me about the lifestyle that I chose to live as an associate with the Gambino crime family, I truly believed it and I lived it out.
Mm.
It's only when I stopped believing it after years of seeing things and how it's run. I never got into the politics of the mob. I never got into the politics. I was the guy that how they taught me when I was a young kid. I was the guy that would be in the neighborhood and I protected the neighborhood. I was the guy that was out there in the streets. If you were messing around in the streets that I used to walk around, you're gonna have to answer to me. And that's how I built my reputation. And there was a lot of violence. I was a violent person at that time.
Now, you were very feared as a result of a lot of this violence. Is that fair to say?
That would be honest. Remember years back, the American Express card, never leave home without it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I treated my pistol.
Gotcha.
I never left home without it. So there wasn't too many people in them days that carried guns, but I always did. And I think that made people think a little bit more. And I have been involved in shootings, not necessarily arrested for them, but I have been involved with shootings, not where people got killed, but where people got hurt. And I think people said, you know what, let's just leave this dude alone because he's like getting shot.
Yeah. And it's an interesting dynamic because growing up in New York, if somebody's carrying a gun, it's typically because they're a police officer or a criminal. If you move to Pennsylvania or to Texas, let's say, there's a lot of people who never leave home without it, but simply for personal protection purposes. So it's like living in two different worlds almost. And it was a lot different back then. You had bad intentions when you were not leaving home without it. Is that an accurate description?
Well, yeah. Well, you got to also remember that I made a lot of enemies.
Right, right.
Understand? So that was the way of protecting myself in a sense too. It wasn't that I was going to go out looking to shoot people for the sake of shooting people, but I carried it just like a police officer would carry it. Now he does it to enforce the law that he represents. I was doing to enforce the law that I represented in a sense. I don't know if that makes any sense to you.
No, it
but
does.
That's just what it was because I made a lot of enemies. I mean, I could name thousands of people. I mean, there's so many times I just didn't show up at my house that people were waiting for me, waiting to kill me.
Wow.
That's something that a lot of people don't understand, that there was a code involved, right? That there was a rule of law, so to speak.
Yes, definitely was. And I lived by it until I started seeing the other side of it. And I wouldn't talk about that on a show right now, but if me and you ever met, I would explain a little bit more in detail about what went down that changed my mind about that life so much. And I was probably about maybe 28, 30 years old at the time.
Gotcha. For those of us just tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. So, Robert, at this point where you're dealing with these serious criminal cases, what is your relationship like with your parents at that point? Because it sounds like they were hardworking people growing up, and to see their son going through this in life must have broken their hearts, no?
It's a great question, and I look back at my past, and I could see, and I don't know if everybody's like that because I can't speak for everybody. But I believe that there's a little bit narcissism in each and every one of us. I was so caught up in just doing what I wanted to do. The philosophy I taught myself was I do whatever I want, whenever I want, wherever I want. And that was just my life. I didn't think much about the shame and guilt and all that I might have been bringing on my family. I thought that my head was just bigger than anything, to be honest with you. Once I got paraded around and meeting all these bosses and stuff like that from many different families, I just got so big-headed about it that I thought I was above everything, So, unfortunately, I think about it now, and I really regret that I put my mom and my family through some of those things, not even really thinking much about it at the time.
Yeah, that's something that I don't think people would realize, that you're going through all of this. You have this relationship with your family growing up, and you saying that it's something that didn't cross your mind at the time probably is confusing for a lot of people. I heard you say something in an interview a while back where you said the reason why you were so dangerous on the streets is that you did not value your own life and therefore you didn't value anybody else's life. Am I saying that right?
You said it exactly the way, word for word. That's exactly how I lived. I lived it like that for a long period of time, you know, and it was just all about me though. That was, you know, and it still breaks my heart when I think about, you know, the way I treated. Not that I was bad. I didn't abuse my parents or anybody in my family. I mean,
Right.
but I was the protector, and I was the guy out in the street. And you know, when you get involved with the mob, you know, one of the initiations if you want to become a member. But I had a guy that was and mentored me in such a great way that he kind of let me know that, you know, the Mafia, the Gambino family was over my own personal family, and I believed it. You know, as sick as that might sound, I really believed it. That I owed the Gambino crime family my life more than I owed my parents my life. Pretty sad.
Yeah, that's something else. Talk about how did you get to that point though, where you feel that you don't even value your own life?
You know, you know, I wish I could go back and really look at everything. I mean, I do look back at my past and try to figure out how did I believe a lot of the stuff that I did believe? How did I get caught up in a lot of things that I did? And you know what? What I have learned, you know, they say today anyway, the average person makes about 35 decisions a day,
Mm.
35,000 decisions a day.
Wow.
I look at my past life and I can see how many bad decisions I made, you know, really not wanting to go to school. I was playing hooky when I was in the third and fourth grade, you know,
Mm.
which really nobody did that, you know, that was just me. I was just that, you know, I just made so many bad decisions. And then, you know, the problem with those decisions, you have to live by the outcome of those decisions, you know.
And if
So
I hear this and I think, maybe there's something that somebody hears and changes the life of somebody who's younger. We got a couple of comments coming in here from some of our listeners. Uh, CB says, I read your book, The Witness, great book. So a little bit of a compliment there, Robert. And DG says, moral compass is missing big time today. And that's really what I'm thinking with what you're saying. You start at this young age, and maybe hooky doesn't seem like such a big deal, but over time it seems to progress, and ultimately things go off the rails. You think that happens with a lot of people?
without a doubt, but you know what? We don't really, and I don't even think we even use the terminology or the vocabulary of consequential thinking.
Mm.
I never thought of consequences. I didn't. The only time I would think of consequences is when I was planning a robbery. I
Mm.
would think about, okay, how much time is involved if I get caught, and how much money is involved with it if I get away with it. That's how I used to think.
And
And if the money was worth doing a couple of years, you know, then I would take that chance and do it. And then I did a lot of other stupid things without thinking of consequences. But
well,
we
you
don't
weren't thinking of
get,
the consequences, but it sounds like you were analyzing things and making what you thought to be a rational decision. If you're saying, okay, here's the amount of time and is it worth it, then you really are to some degree weighing things out. There's a sort of an analytical uh, and sort of thing going on in your head there, isn't there?
well, it is, but I definitely don't want anybody that's listening to this show to take that advice.
No, no,
You
no. I'm
know?
not saying that.
So, because any time that you do is going to, first of all, you know, anything that you do is going to reflect in the outcome of your life. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's why I say choices. I thought it was Shakespeare, but then I looked it up, and it was actually Danny DeVito in one of his movies. In one of his movies, and I forget the name of the movie. But anyway, he said, the choices you make will determine the life you live.
Mm.
Hmm.
And I heard that and watched that movie probably 20 something years ago. But I remember those words. And they spoke so much truth to me, once God removed the scales from my eyes and I started seeing the truth for the truth of the gospel of Christ. And I could see, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Every decision we make is going to have an outcome, whether for the good or for the bad, of how we go on to the next day or the next hour or the next minute. I try to tell my daughter, she says, well, I drink, but I don't get drunk. And I said, but Brianna, if you're breaking the law and God forbid something happens where you get into an accident, somebody gets killed, if you had 2 drinks and you're over the limit, you get charged, you can ruin your whole life. So think consequences. Think about the consequences before you do the action, before you do about it. What can
And
it do?
I don't want to get it sideways. I was not at all trying to say that I was admiring you for your analytical sort of line of reasoning there. But what I am saying is that it's interesting to see that there was this analytical process that went on, because a lot of people think about very violent people or criminals and think, well, that person's just crazy. They don't think about anything. That thought doesn't cross their mind. Clearly, there were thoughts that were crossing your mind. There was this analysis that was going on. And there was, I don't want to say method to your madness, but that's where I'm really going with this. Brings me to something I did want to bring up. Like I mentioned, born and raised in Brooklyn. My father always tells me this story, and because we're talking about absolutely crazy people, my father tells me this story about the first time he ever really left home for an extended period of time. He played football for Lafayette, and he was on the varsity squad as a sophomore. They went away to football camp, and so he gets to camp, and his bunkmate is Tommy Karate,
Oh,
Tom Patera.
yeah, I know him.
Oh, yeah, there were a couple. I think there's a book out about some of the things that he did and stuff like that. Another guy who, at least allegedly, did some things that. And Philly Chris on the program over here. His last name is DeMayo. He's got some relatives who were involved in on that side of the tracks as well. So you hear about these stories. People don't think about sort of the analytical side of things. I want to go a little bit further. So at some point, you got involved in drugs, right?
Yes, yes. I was after, well, I was on trial with these cases. I was working at a crack game, a dice game in Manhattan. I'm not sure if it was before or after. It was probably after, because like in 78, 79, I was working these crap games, making money, just working for the guys. And I seen this one guy was in there, and he lost about probably 10, 15,000. I went to, but he lost a lot of money.
Mm.
And I was a bad gambler, and I know when I lose money, you don't want to come near me. But this guy had such a calm demeanor. And after he lost whatever money he had in his pockets and on him, he said to one of the guys, he said, "Could I send Robert out to my car to get something out of it?" So he gives me the keys. He said, "There's going to be a brown paper bag in the back seat. Just take it and bring it to me." So he gives me the keys, and I go, and it's a brand new spanking Jaguar.
Mm.
And in the back seat is a brown paper bag. I take the bag. Of course, I don't look in it. It's not my business. That's just how I live. And I bring it to him, and it's just more money.
Mm.
So I don't remember if he got his money back that he lost. I don't remember the outcome of the whole thing. So wasn't watching that. But I was very impressed by his demeanor of losing so much money and it not phasing him so much.
Sure.
I asked the guys after the game was over, I said, "Man, what does this guy do that he can lose that kind of money?" I get upset over it. And they tell me he's one of the largest, biggest drug dealers in Harlem.
Wow.
And this guy was dressed sharp. I mean, you could have cut your finger on the crease of his pants. He was just dressed sharp. The car was immaculate, and man, I got infatuated with that. And I said, okay, because money brings power, and with money you can get control of a lot of people and brings a lot of people around you because now you can control them because you have all the money.
Sure.
I wanted that for me. I thought that was the next step up for me to get the money now. And I got into a little bit of the cocaine business. And then the cocaine got into my business. And before you know it, I was addicted to drugs. Cocaine got the best of me. it took quite a few years before it happened was socially and then making money with it and snorting up, going to bars and stuff like that. But after quite a few years, that became an obsession for me. And then I lost everything, and then crack cocaine came around. First it was freebasing. I don't know if you remember Richard Pryor getting burnt up in Hollywood, freebasing. And I went to that thing, and I did it a little bit, and it calmed me down. I wasn't that addicted to it. And then I did get addicted to it, and then I lost everything. And then crack cocaine was the cheapest I could possibly get, and I got addicted to crack cocaine.
Now, when you talk about getting involved in selling the drugs, I understand you saw this guy, and sort of like when you were a kid, and you saw these wise guys who had that lifestyle, and they had the money, they had the power. You were drawn in with with similar kinds of things. But at that time, or at some point at least, I'm not saying necessarily at that time, but at some point at least, drugs were a big no-no with those associates, right?
With a lot of the families.
Right.
You know, I don't want to talk out of turn, but I remember watching Godfather 1
Mm.
with a couple of guys. And basically what they were explaining to me, whether it's true or not, but the way it was different bosses at different eras and different times of the mob. And I don't know if you remember the part where Don Corleone, they want to sit down and they want to bring drugs into the neighborhoods. And he sits down and he says, now, from my understanding, this was supposed to be Frank Costello in real life.
Mm.
The three things he said, listen, I'm against it because if we bring it in, we'll lose all our politicians. Nobody's going to want to get and do the things that we're asking them to do if there's a lot of time involved. He said, you're going to create a lot of rats. Nobody's going to do 20, 30 years for some of these crimes for dealing drugs.
Sure.
He said, the third thing, before you know it, it'll be in our own backyards. That means our own kids will be getting addicted to it.
Mm.
Now, whether that's true or not, I believe that was said in The Godfather. Now, if that was the truth of what Frank Costello said, or if it was Frank Costello, I don't know. But I can tell you, all that did happen.
It did happen.
So a lot of families didn't want drugs. The Gambino family, from my understanding, wasn't around drugs. They didn't accept drugs. Matter of fact, and I could be overquoting myself, and I really don't want to say things that I'm not certain and sure of.
Sure.
But from what I've heard, that's what got Paul Castellano killed, is because one of the guys, John Gotti's brothers, one of his brothers was involved in a drug business. After Paul gave them 6 months to clean up the act, he wanted all the drugs out of that family, and they got arrested for selling drugs again. And I think that was part of the process of why Johnny had to whack Paul. If that's what Johnny actually did, I can't tell you. I know that for a fact, but that was what he was accused of doing.
So as recently as then, this was something that the families wanted people to stay away from. And you get involved in selling the drugs at that point because of the lifestyle that you're seeing from that guy. Did you have any hesitations because of that?
I did have hesitations for it, but you got to remember that this was in '85, I believe, that Paul got killed. And what happened was, I think I can't remember the year. I think it was in '83 or '84, something like that.
Gotcha.
That this all went down. So no, but what I was going to do was like everybody else, they keep it to myself. You know, I didn't flaunt it that I was selling drugs. You know what I mean? I would have other people sell it. You know, not me personally. So,
ever a concern that it would somehow fall back on you? Or does it more go back to what you said earlier, is that you didn't think about these sorts of things?
well, I didn't, because you're thinking about the money, and you want to know something? I had a lot of bad habits, and one of the bad habits was I was a big gambler. So when you put gambling and drugs together, I mean, it's just a matter of probably maybe months, maybe a year, that before you're going to lose just about everything that you had. So I have to tell you that I did end up losing a lot of respect for myself, and then a lot of respect for the people, a lot of respect the people in the neighborhood I lost for me also, because I really got that bad with the drugs.
So you go from this person where you said all you care about yourself, you have that narcissistic sort of streak, where you're only thinking about yourself, but you also don't value your own life. It's an interesting dichotomy. Uh, Clearly today, you're living your life for Christ and not yourself. So where does that change take place?
Well, back in 1997, but first let me just say, in 1993, I was not married at the time, but the girl that I was with gave birth to my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Her name is Brianna. Brianna was in my life. I cleaned myself up. I figured, okay, I have somebody else that I need to be thinking about or loving more than just me. And 7 weeks into bringing her home from when she was when the mom gave birth to her, I had an argument with her mother, and I went out to get high one more time. And I figured I'll go to work right after that. I was working construction. I think I was on parole at the time too, and never came back. That one night
Wow.
lasted a long time. So my daughter's mom didn't want me around my daughter, and it was understandable. I mean, at that point in time, I understand it today. But that point in time, it was an insult. I was hurt, and the only thing it did was make me run more to the drugs. So I stood out of her life for quite a while. A year into her life, I cleaned myself up, moved out to Florida. Her mother and her came out to visit. I was living with my mother at the time. They went back home. I ended up getting back on drugs again. Bottom line, the long story short, the mom thought it was best that I didn't have any relationship with my daughter. 1997, I get arrested. I call them my two angels, but they weren't angels. They were warrant officers. I had a case in Florida when I was living out there that I was doing some stuff with the Gambino crime family. And then I had a drug case in Queens, New York at the time too. And I was running away from both cases, and these warrant officers captured me, hiding out in the house. And I call them my angels because it's the last time I ever did a drink and a drug.
Wow.
So they don't know it's still probably today. And if they ever hear this, they're still alive. I want to say thank you for arresting me. But so I'm in jail, and of course now I know I'm not going to get bail because I was in trouble already. You know, I know I'm facing a lot of time. I already had 4 felony convictions already, so I know the book's going to get thrown at me for the drugs, for the case. It was a RICO case in Florida.
Right.
In Miami, Florida. So, okay, what do? Okay, what I always do, I've been in and out of prisons a lot, so what I do is I try to get money for a good attorney to get me out of the mess that I got myself into. And then at the same token, I need to get commissary, which is money into my account so I can be as comfortable as possible going to the store, getting my coffee and cigarettes at that time and all that there. So I'm calling up everybody because, you know, I was on drugs, so I didn't have any money.
Sure.
So I'm calling up everybody trying to see whatever favors I can get in, and a lot of people are telling me no. I think well, my mom said, Robert, I can't help you. My sister always helped me. Said, Robert, we just can't help you right now. I had this one friend that was a good friend of mine. She was a girl, but just a real good friend. And she said, why don't you go read your Bible? And I figured, okay, that's a brush off. There's another person that don't want to help me. My daughter's mom's allowing me to talk to my daughter over the phone. And I call her up this time, and she's crying. I said, Brianna, why are you crying? She said, why won't you come and see me? Listen to me, man. It devastated me. If I could have ran and got high or whatever I could have did to medicate myself from the pain, my heart just shattered.
Sure.
Because it reminded me of how many times I was in the neighborhood. And whether the mother would allow me to see her or not, but I never even made an attempt to try to reconcile myself with my daughter because I'd rather get high. That pain devastated me, and I ran back to myself. And I knew about God, but I didn't know God, and there's a big difference. And we could talk about that maybe at another time.
Sure.
So I had a knowledge that there was a God. And I ran back to my cell, crying like a baby. Didn't want the inmates to see me, so I hung up the phone, ran to my cell, and I said, God, if you're real, either have somebody kill me or change me because I can't live with this pain anymore. I don't want to live like this anymore. And it wasn't any supernatural prayer. It wasn't a prayer of repentance at that point in time in my life. It was just, God, please help me. Please help me. I can't live like this. And I believe Jesus Christ honored the sincerity and the cry of my heart and came inside me through the power of his Holy Spirit. And my life just started changing from that point on.
That's amazing. And you've done magnificent things since then. So how does that start? You get out, and how does your ministry portion of your life begin?
Well, I didn't get right out. At the same token, FBI agents are going to my mom. They're looking for people to help them with the case in Florida. I got their phone number. I called them up and see what kind of deal I could make with them. I made what I thought was a good deal. You know, at that point in time in my life, I felt I was completely hopeless. I had no life to live. I was never going to be the mobster I wanted to be. And there's always likely chance I was going to end up dying in the streets of an overdose, crack overdose or whatever it was, a drug overdose. So I decided to help the government. They promised that they would give me a fresh start in the witness protection program. Now they can't guarantee that. They could only recommend it. So I took it. And from there, got shipped to Miami and all over the place. And it's just miraculous how God was just moving in my life since that cry for help, that every place I was going, I was finding more of Jesus Christ. I threw out every book I ever owned and just started reading the Bible. And every place that I was going, because you know, once you're in the system, you have no control over where you're going. And every place that they were moving to me, it was just more of getting more of Jesus. It was either in a cell, isolated from everybody, watching a lot of TV, Christian TV, reading my Bible. The next move was away from that into a dormitory, which I never liked dormitories in prison. And then there was 2 Bible studies there. And I got baptized all over again. I was baptized as a baby, but this time I got baptized fully submerged. And then when I had to do time, and then when I came out, I was placed in the witness protection program, was given the new name, was placed in a foreign land called San Antonio, Texas. And from that point on, God just started, he's been moving in my life, and it hasn't stopped moving in my life. But I had such a strong hunger and thirst for more to know about Jesus Christ. So after a couple of years, I got thrown out of the witness protection program because I married somebody from New York. They told me that was against the violations of what's called the going into your hot zone, and you're not supposed to do that. I violated my protection. So they threw me out, and I went to Dallas, Texas to go to Christ for the Nations. It's a Bible Institute. From there, I went to Criswell College and got and stayed there for a year. I didn't get a master's, but I did get an associate's degree in biblical studies. And that's the miracle I want to talk about, is because the reason is I had an 8th grade education, but I went in, took a test for, the GED, and didn't know much about anything, but passed it. I don't even know how I passed it. And then was able to go through all these courses. And it's only by the power of God in my life. It's Him moving in me and Him moving through me. And I accomplished a lot of things. So I also went to Africa, Kenya, Africa twice. And there's a ministry out there that we still support today. And I go out there, and it's about orphan kids and orphan girls. And we have 2 homes for them now. It's a little crazy now to try to get around and out there right now because the pandemic that's going on, but we plan on going back out there again. But we do send support through our ministry here. And I go out speaking wherever God opens up doors. I wrote this book. Well, actually, H. Scott Hunt was the writer of the book. I just did an interview with him. And we have the book out there, and the book, all sales of the book goes to the ministry. If you get it through Amazon.com, very little goes into our account. But if you go to robertborelli.com, you can order it from me, and I would sign it and send it to you if you want it signed. I don't have to sign it. And that's just what I do. So wherever churches goes, the biggest platform that I get is going into churches and other speaking arenas, and I bring books with me, and that's how I sell most of my books.
I'm telling every single listener over the airwaves and over the internet, you must go to robertborelli.com and purchase this book. I mean, if you didn't find this interview absolutely enthralling with Robert and his story and his transformation, then I don't know if you have a pulse, frankly. I just don't know what to say. This is incredible stuff. So what else? Going out to Africa to help orphan children, going from this life of crime, being addicted to drugs. What would you recommend, or what words of wisdom would you have for some young kid who's out there today and maybe sees maybe it's not the same people you saw and were glorified and drew you to that type of lifestyle, but some other version of life of crime and they're going towards that, what advice would you have for somebody like that?
This is my advice to anyone out there. It's never too late for a new beginning. Never too late for a new beginning. No matter where you're at, what your circumstances, what culture you're coming from, whatever heartaches that you have, whether it's addiction or pornography, drugs, whatever it is, man, it's never too late for a new beginning. And I have to tell everyone, my new beginning started on my knees, confessing and accepting Jesus Christ, the work that he done for me, and the work that he's doing through me, through the power of his Holy Spirit. So it's never too late for a new beginning in anything that you're in. And for the younger kids, man, this is what I say, man. Consequential thinking, man. Think about the consequences, whatever choice you might be thinking of making. The smallest choice can have an impact on your life, either for the good or for the bad, man. If it's not for the good, man, then don't do it, man. Don't take the chance. I've ruined so many lives, and I have ruined my family's lives, and it's only by the grace of God that I'm able to do what I do today. So remember, it's never too late from the beginning, no matter where you're at.
I think it's a good example of the power of Jesus, right? How no matter where you are in life, that you can turn it around and you could end up doing so much good. And if at any point during your life when you had been involved in this lifestyle, whether it was with the drugs or with the crime, you could have ended up in a position where you were no longer around today to be having this impact on other people's lives. And you've had such a profound impact on people who hear this story. And I think it tells people, do not give up, continue on, and really seek Jesus. Is that right, Robert?
Amen to that. Could I just give you this here? There's something that I read off a church's thing, and it just resonated with me so powerful. I wrote it down. It says, Christ's crucifixion is the heart of the gospel. His resurrection is the power of the gospel, and his ascension is the glory of the gospel. Just a gospel message I wanted to share.
That's amazing. We've got some great comments flowing in. We've got somebody says hello from Dallas. Somebody says beautiful testimony. God bless him. Somebody says love it. Have to get his book. Somebody else says I highly recommend it. Somebody says choices matter in life. Somebody else says great interview. So we really appreciate everything. I want to leave off with one more thing, Robert, if you don't mind. And you've been very, very generous with your time so far. So I don't want to be a gavone with your time, right?
No. As long as we can keep talking about Jesus, I can spend eternity with you.
Well, that's actually exactly what my question was going to be. I don't think too many people these days, I don't know whether it's social media or the fact that we're constantly bombarded with different things, but I don't think too many people these days pay enough attention thinking about eternity. Is that something you've noticed?
A lot of Christians aren't even thinking about eternity. It's about the here and now right now. But let me just say this here. Eternity is too long to get it wrong. You better get it right.
Yeah. I think you better get t-shirts with that made up on it. That might be generate some revenue for all your good causes. Eternity is too long to get it wrong. And do you think people realize that ultimately, because you hear a lot of people these days, they're really wishy-washy on this topic, even some famous pastors, where you say, well, is it true that you can't only get saved through Jesus? And people will have all kinds of different answers. It'll surprise you, their answer. But it's a very important decision to make, isn't it?
What did Jesus say?
That's right.
I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If we don't accept the sacrifice that Jesus made for our sin, if he didn't take the penalty of death in our behalf, then we're still dead in our trespasses. The Bible says the wages of sin is death. Not sins, but sin.
Right.
Understand? So, regardless of what, if somebody didn't pay the price of our debt, in other words, this is how I look at it. The cross, there was an exchange done at the cross. He took on our sins and he exchanged our sins and gave us his righteousness. There was an exchange that happened at the cross.
And that exchange had to take place because everybody's imperfect according to God's standard, right? Because my concern is that some people might look at this and say, well, well, I've never had any homicide charges, right? Or I've never done something that bad. I am generally a good person. I try to hold the door for little old ladies, and I'll donate my clothes to the Salvation Army every once in a while, and that's all I need. I don't know about this whole Jesus stuff. What would you say to a person who says that?
I think Jesus cleared it up, and I can't give you the exact reference of where it is in the Bible, but he did put it, if you think about lusting after a girl, you already committed adultery.
Yeah. Good luck with that, everybody, right?
No.
That's a pretty high standard, Robert.
Right.
It's
a tough one.
It says if you even have any animosity towards your brother, you already committed murder.
Right.
So, listen, this is what I say. A lot of people could change their behavior. It's not possible to change your behavior on your own. But only God can change your heart. Mm-hmm. And the Bible says that God examines the heart, not the work. The work was already done through Christ Jesus. So it's the heart that needs to be changed. We didn't talk about this, but before I got placed, when I got released from Sandstone Federal Prison, the marshals pick me up and they bring me to another place where I have to be processed for the witness protection program. Mm. And they have to establish where they could place me. Now, I don't know how they do all this, to be honest with you. But then you have to, and at that time, it's changed now, but at that time, you could keep your first name, but you have to change your last name. And it's an ironic kind of story because every name that they would come in and say, okay, what last name do you want? I would give it to them. They would come back like 10 minutes later and say, that's no good. Now, I don't know why they were saying it was no good. But it happened a couple of times. But I happened to be watching a show called MASH at that time, waiting for them to come back. And in the MASH episode, there's somebody that needs a heart transplant. But those physicians there couldn't do it, so they have to send for a specialist, and his name is Dr. Borelli. Didn't realize it at the time, so when they came in, I said Borelli. That's how I got my last name. But the ironic thing is, he was a heart transplant expert, and I definitely needed a heart transplant.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Cool. That's funny how that stuff works out. God put that in place for a reason, obviously. I will say, as a side note, Italian Americans known for a lot of things. Great opera singers, we're good with their hands for a lot of different things. Can cook real well. Not always known for being great physicians, right? So I don't know if I want a heart surgeon Borelli. I don't know if that was real life. I might be looking for somebody else.
I mean, but you do know Dr. Fauci is Italian, right? Just thought I'd throw that out there.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah.
Really good.
I think you settled the score for a lot of our listeners on that.
That's right.
And a lot of people out in Texas as well. So if people want to learn more about your ministry, if they want to get involved, because there's so many people hearing this and they're saying, this is amazing. We want to somehow contribute to this, whether it's financially or being involved or buying the book. They go to robertborelli.com.
RobertBorelli.com is a website there. It gives a lot of more information about my life, about what I do. The key thing for me is to try to get as many speaking engagements as I possibly can, because that's where I can get some money to support my family through doing that, but also selling the books and get money into the ministry. So it helps both in that term. People could donate on the website. They could email me, whatever they want to do. I'm always open for conversation. I'm not here to talk about my mob life because, listen, that's not who I am anymore. That's the bottom line, But I am willing to be talking about Jesus, and I would share some stories with them about some bad decisions I made to show them, like I told you, the average person, they say today, this is according to the internet, so I don't know how true it is, they make 35,000 decisions a day. If you added that up through my lifetime, you're talking about over 20 million decisions. If you know my story before I got saved, you know a lot of them were bad, probably 21 million. But there's one decision I made that changed the outcome of those 20 million decisions. And that was the decision to accept Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior.
That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. Now, I do want to say this. We weren't talking about your past for the purposes of glorifying anything or anything like that, but I do think it's important for people to hear that part in order to see how magnificent it is where you are today. And that glorifies God in and of itself, the fact that you've been brought to this new place in your life. It's almost like if you never knew what bad weather is, you wouldn't be able to know what good weather is. Is that fair to say?
That is. Well, let's put it maybe even better. Well, maybe not better, one shouldn't say it that way. But dark is dark, right?
Right.
It's only when the light comes in that it removes that darkness. So if we don't talk about the darkness, it's hard to share about the light. You can't know about light if you don't know how dark it was. So I share that there as part of the dark side of my story. But what I would say is a before and after.
Right.
Before Christ, after Christ. So
right. Yeah, if you're looking at the before and after photos, if you only see one photo of the person, you don't know, well, is that, did they get fatter since the last time, or did they lose? They could have lost 300 pounds, right? Show everybody the book. Show everybody the book, The Witness. We got people blowing up the comments over here. They really want to read it. They want to get a hold of it. Go to robertborelli.com.
Yes.
That's the mug shot on the front over there.
That's the mug shots. Yes, that's the mug shots.
Look at that good-looking young guy right there.
How old were you there in the mugshot?
Excuse me?
How old were you there when the mugshot was taken?
This one, because I had so many of them. This one, I think, was back in 80. This was Staten Island, 1984.
84. Okay.
Wow. Okay. Staten Island Technical High School over here, Robert. I'm a graduate of Staten Island Technical High School.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's only one borough that I was never arrested in, and that was the Bronx. But I hit every other borough. Madison County, Suffolk County.
Really? Really?
Yes.
Well, I don't think we're going to check that box off before the rest of your life, right? Maybe let's not go for it. I don't want to call it the Triple Crown, right? We're not going for the full scorecard on this one.
No, we're not going.
Once again, robertborelli.com. Check out the book, The Witness. Go ahead and order it. Get involved with his ministry. Invite him on out for a speaking engagement, will you? We got listeners over there from Texas. Who are piping in over here. Maybe they'll have you come on out in the middle of the country. Maybe you go all over the place. You go on tour now, Robert.
That's what I'm looking for. Yes, I want to share the glory of Christ. That's what I want to do. Like I tell people, this is not about glorifying my past. It's about bringing glory to my Jesus.
We got somebody piping in, New Dorp High School graduate over there. So we got people from all over the country listening to this, Robert. Thank you so much for being here. We've taken quite a bit of your time already. We really thank you. robertborelli.com. You are welcome on this program. You have an open invitation, sir.
God bless you. God bless you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And maybe we could talk outside of the show sometime.
Absolutely. I would love that. God bless you too.
All right. Thank you. Bless.
Those of us just tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters, only on the Freedom Station. WFYL. How about that, Billy Chris?
That was fantastic. That was really cool.
Was that
great.
not intense? That was amazing.
Yeah, that was really good. Yeah, I was kind of enjoying it. You know, as like a listener. I was just
You're
sitting there
listening like you listen to the program. Somebody else,
like I'm
anybody
taking a
else
break
decide
today.
to show up to work here today?
You're doing such a good job. I didn't want to mess up your rhythm. You know.
Yeah, he was doing good.
Yeah.
It really just felt like having a conversation.
Yeah.
Really great to hear that story. Every single aspect was intriguing, fascinating. That is some story, isn't it?
No, it's amazing how he can, you know, talk about how he's able to turn himself around, and it really resonated with me when he was talking about how it's really just never too late. So, you know, and he's a perfect example. You know, I can't imagine some of the things he's seen and done over the course of his life, but to be able to turn that around and, you know, in such a positive way is amazing. Shows anybody can do it, really. So,
Right.
Yeah, great interview.
Nothing's
Nice job, Mike.
impossible with God, right?
Mm-hmm.
Liberty, what's on your mind?
I just thought too, like not only sharing his past, like it's important for the testimony purposes, but also because some people just won't hear it from somebody who had a perfect life. You know,
That's true.
and
That's true. That's
so
true.
if I go into a jail, you're like, get the heck out of here, you know. But
Are you saying that you're perfect, Liberty Lee? That's what
Well, she is.
They won't listen to somebody who's perfect, so they won't listen to me. That's what you just said.
ain't listening to me.
Did she not? Roll the transcript back. Is that what you said?
But those are the people, those are the people God wants to go after their hearts, the people who are the lost sheep, and he's going after those people. And everybody needs Jesus, obviously, but I just think that they're not going to receive it from some people. And I think he has a special ministry with that.
Yeah.
And I understood to a degree that because of his life's work and how he's devoted his life to Jesus and his ministry, I didn't want it to become a political discussion. He threw in that Fauci thing over there.
I thought it could turn political real quick there.
Like,
a little bit of a clue, right? A little bit of a clue.
A little bit.
But it really just an amazing story. How about you, Russ? As somebody who grew up in central Pennsylvania, it's not like you were raised in Brooklyn or raised in Philly. What's that like hearing a story like that? Are some of the things sort of foreign to you, or does it line up with some of the things you've seen in the movies?
It lines up with some things I see. I've only ever seen like one mob movie, and that was Goodfellas. And
you watched it 100 times.
Yes, indeed. The movie's like 2.5 hours. But I did notice it went very much along the storyline. Didn't go to school, got a job at a young age. Once you got out of the mob, went to drugs, or got pinched once. It followed a lot of the storyline there, and and I was kind of just enjoying the chat. I was able to throw it up on the screen there, and I was noticing a few names I haven't seen before. Maybe I'm just out of tune with the chat. I hadn't checked it all that much before.
You're not doing your job or anything, right?
No, I'm doing Philly Chris's job by just sitting here listening. But I noticed Robert Brady. I haven't seen that name before. Barbara Yavino.
Welcome.
I did want to say, for those out there who
welcome.
can't figure out the chat, I've got a couple of messages. Like how, for those who aren't super YouTube savvy, it is hard to find when you're first going on. You literally go next to where you can like or dislike the video. Please don't dislike it. If you go one over from that icon, it says live chat. If you click that, you can join in the chat.
I think DG has figured out the chat. What do you think?
Yeah.
DG has mastered the chat.
Yeah.
I like DG's last comment there too.
Yeah, Fauci has a special seat in hell. Yeah, on the throne.
Well, we want everybody to go to heaven, right? Robert Borelli, getting the word out there. Anybody can be saved, even
We'll
Fauci.
have Robert talk to him. Maybe he can.
Yeah.
Him.
Hey, if Borelli would say, if Jesus could save me, he could save Fauci, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Very, very inspiring and fascinating story. It's interesting that we're able to do this kind of thing, because I didn't get to mention this to him, but I don't think that years ago, when somebody was involved in that kind of lifestyle, they could come on out years later and tell these kinds of stories in public.
Sure.
It doesn't seem like something that would have been very popular given that lifestyle, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Well, I think the guys that
and still may not be with certain people. Yeah.
I think the guys that he mentioned by name were probably already dead, and he didn't have to worry about getting whacked.
Yeah.
No. Well, what I'm saying is, it's just not something that was generally done now. In this kind of a situation, with such a dramatic life change, I would think that his position is, well, I'm going to come out, and it's not that he said anything wrong against anybody else, but I would think that he comes on out there and says, you know what, I'm going to spread this message no matter what it takes, and I'm not afraid because I've got somebody bigger on my side, right?
Right.
And if you've made that kind of a life decision and you have that kind of conviction, and you've committed to this new purpose,
right,
then it would seem that that's what's going on. Liberty, do you have something?
No, I like his boldness. You know, I really think we need more of that in society. He says it so clear. And, you know, you're always thinking of how to reach people who are totally, you know, just super far from being saved. And it's just, I liked hearing it, how clear he was. You know, he wasn't sugarcoating it. He just went straight for it. And I like that. I think we need more of that today.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of stock is placed on image these days, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Where maybe a lot of people in the ministry have to get up there and seem all prim and proper and perfect.
Right.
And a lot of people will relate to that story. Maybe they see the prim, proper person on TV and say, well, I could never be that.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not like that guy.
Even some of the churches, you go into church and you feel like you have to dress up perfect and you know, be all perfect, and you just have this down to earth guy that's like, hey, you know.
Well, not everybody's perfect like Liberty, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
Come on, guys. Come on, man.
Come on, man. Come on,
you know, you just want to sit down and have a chat with him, you know, and he tells you a story, and then he says, hey, I ain't sugarcoating it. Jesus is the way, you know.
Well, it's
and you can always start, like Philly Chris related to that. Like, you can always start. It's never too late.
Right.
Absolutely love that. That was great.
No, I think a lot of people feel like they're just beyond repair, or, you know, beyond it all, I suppose. So yeah, I mean, if someone like him can do it, then that's pretty impressive.
And that's what he said. He said it's never too late, right?
Right.
It's never too late. We got lots of people making comments. Liberty is perfect is trending in the comments.
Oh,
Liberty is perfect.
Goodness.
Their next shirt. Liberty is perfect.
None of us are perfect. None of us.
Says
you're close.
You're
about as close as you can get for a normal person. Yeah.
EG says, like the truthful media, you mean? We've got a lot to discuss regarding that truthful media.
Yeah, sure.
I will tell you one thing. Headline for this week, outside of Robert Borelli, maybe we should do a transition because worthy of a separation there. That was such an amazing segment.
Yes, make my life easier, please.
Gave us time. What's that, Russ?
I said, make my life easier, please. Do a transition.
It's always about you, Russ, isn't it?
For those of us just tuning in, shut up, everybody. I'm working here.
Quiet on the set.
Jeez.
For those of us just tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. So, first I want to say this. We're going to be on location at the Oaks Show tomorrow on Friday.
Yes.
And the plan is we will be streaming from 5 until around 7 p.m. Maybe 5 to 6, but around 5 to 7, let's say in that range over there. I heard through the grapevine that David Coates of Elite Tactical Armory, EliteTacticalArmory.com, and PACommercialArmory.com will be joining us on location. And what does he say? Jeremy Miller, I'm late. It sounds like I have a really good interview to listen to tomorrow. You sure do. You sure do. And check out our On Location segment tomorrow. We're going to be over at the Oaks Show. I also have word on good authority that Richard S. Roberts Jr., the other half of the Justice Brothers, will be joining us at the Oak Show live on location.
Right.
So that'll be great. Looking forward to that. And in other news, the politics side of things, I have to tell everybody something that is extremely important and something that you've never heard in your entire life. I was wrong.
Not entirely,
I
though.
was wrong.
Not entirely.
I'm just kidding. Okay.
Well, you're perfect too, Mike.
I thought I was wrong once, but then I realized I made a mistake.
That's right. Exactly.
That happens to me all the
You're
time.
talking about Cuomo, I guess.
I sure am.
Yeah.
You remember that, right?
I remember.
2 weeks we talked about this, and I said that nothing was going to happen, and he wasn't going to get in trouble. And what happened?
Although he's still not really in
Is he
trouble,
really in trouble at this point? He stepped down on his
Right,
own.
Mike. You
I
could
might still be right.
You
Yeah.
might still be right. I was thinking about
Resigning
this,
isn't
actually.
enough.
Hey, well, maybe he'll just fade away. And
He
they won't do anything
channeled
about it.
his
I said
inner
nothing was
Nixon.
I said he won't
Yeah,
get in trouble,
nothing.
and nothing's going to happen.
Okay.
Maybe I was half right. Maybe he won't get in
Okay.
trouble, but something happened, right?
Yeah,
He's not in
something
office
happened.
anymore.
Yeah, he got caught.
He coulda-
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I think he's stepping down. I think effective like 14 days or something like that.
Right, he
At this
didn't even
point-
do it
14
effective
days from a
immediately,
couple
right?
days ago.
At this point,
So
I'm going to tell you to
what's that
lawyer
all
up and
about?
shut up, Mike. Just
Why is it
Potentially.
not? Why is it not effective immediately? What's the deal with that?
Yeah,
anybody
14.
know?
It's appropriate
I don't know.
to give 14 days in that situation.
So he can
14 days notice.
quarantine.
14 days. these
He
are my
put
2
in his
weeks
2
notice.
weeks.
He put in his 2 weeks. notice.
Let me see.
Yeah.
Is that in the
It says he
handbook?
resigned, so I want to make sure we get this
But
right.
they did say 14 days, yeah. I guess he
Okay.
gave
C-
some sort-
CB,
I
CB
feel like Chris is
agrees
my
with-
fact-checking source.
CB agrees with the original prediction. He says, well,
Right.
nothing did happen.
Right.
He said, Mike, you're still perfect. Nothing happened.
Yeah.
CB
14 days. Got to give notice in those situations. Yeah.
Well,
that was
I
bizarre.
think part of the reason he's stepping down is because if he doesn't get thrown out of office, then he can always come back. Because
Well, does he-
who
does he
wouldn't
collect
vote
a
for a
pension if he
disgraced
resigns? How does that
governor?
work?
That's
I
a
don't
good
know how
question.
it works with government workers. Does he collect a pension?
They'll
I
probably
don't
figure out a
know.
way for him to keep it, you know.
I'm giving a big Darth Vader voice on this one because I just am sighing. We're just watching the media and comparing this to Trump.
Maybe he'll still run for.
14 days to
President.
flatten the Cuomo,
The
Jeremy Miller
accusations hurled
says.
at Trump.
14 days. Fauci recommended it.
Yeah, that's right.
They're gonna kick us off of YouTube for this, by the way.
Well,
right?
probably.
They're gonna
Fauci
kick us
didn't
off.
recommend flattening the Cuomo.
You can't flatten the Cuomo. It's against the
Medical
law.
misinformation.
Yeah, that's right.
Here.
Got to check in with the CDC on that one, I guess.
We need to
He said-
create some kind of cartoon that morphs something like the personification of Snowflake into Fauci.
Yeah.
Oh, we got in the comments over here. Oh well, they're coming up on the screen.
Yeah.
Oh,
All right, they're in,
Yeah,
in
they're
the
on the
chat over
screen.
here. I don't have to look on the side anymore. Thank you, Russell.
It's
Yeah,
awesome.
no
Appreciate
problem.
Way to go, Russ.
Coming
I'll
up in
just-
the monitor here.
Yeah.
that's right.
And all the new technology here on the show.
Till you
Jeremy says
till
he'll
you
do
tell
Bill
me to
Clinton
show
and
something
pop up
else.
his head in a few years. He's stepping down his own. It's a sham. Yeah, 14 days to flatten the Cuomo. DG coming out with something bold. I am reading this. This is a quote. I am not saying it. We'll get in trouble if Liberty's got to say it. I'm not saying it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm not saying
We
it.
need a
Somebody's gonna
woman's
make it
voice.
It'll be
If I
perfect if
quote
Liberty does it.
DG on this one, somebody's gonna screenshot that and put it all over the internet. See what Mike G said?
Yeah,
Oh.
I wouldn't go there in this day and age.
Yeah.
Well, I have it on screen, so you can read it, and people can't accuse
They'll
you.
figure out a way to doctor it and tarnish my.
You want me to say it then? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if people hate me. I'm the producer. I got to be in the show no matter what.
Everybody hates you already anyway, Russ.
Okay, well they can go stick something large into somewhere unpleasant. Okay.
Be nice.
Just
Femi
kidding,
Fem-
of course.
Femi
I love
Fem
it. I love
Patel
it.
is the only one who can say that.
Yeah. So DG says, sorry, as a woman, those women knew a lot of what they were doing.
Mm.
Yes.
You
That's what
heard
he's
his.
saying, yeah.
Well, did you hear?
Are
his
you
excuses?
implying women know things? How dare you?
Oh goodness. Oh goodness.
Here we go.
Did you hear what his excuse was though?
I remember you texted it. That was pretty funny. Yeah.
Yeah. His excuse. What is?
Wasn't
what
it
exactly
verbatim
was it?
what Joe
exactly
said?
Did he say?
Something to the effect that if he's not whatever, he's Italian, right?
Yeah, I'm just Italian.
He's
Yeah,
just
exactly.
Italian.
Heritage.
Yeah.
Great.
I'm not a predator. I'm just Italian.
I'm not perverted. I'm just Italian.
That's what it was. Yeah.
It's like, oh, whoa, pal.
Hold
I
on
should
a
have let
minute.
Borelli take this one for us.
Oh,
right?
man.
Exactly. Yeah, you should have asked him about that.
Hey, listen, you don't speak for all of us, my friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't get
go-
you don't
go
get to
try
play the
pin that
Italian
on the
card.
rest of us, thank you.
Right.
Okay, DG says not defending his actions in any way. I don't think it was taken that way, but of course, with the leftists, you know the way they operate.
You have to clarify everything these days.
We have to clarify everything because we're
Right.
not trying to perpetuate fake news.
Mm-hmm.
You got to spell it out for the stupid
now.
people.
Clarify
That's
that I'm clarifying. Thank you. You ever see? There's a GIF I think of Trump holding a Trump head in his fingers, and it just keep going into the Trump. That's like we got to do the clarifying image over here. We clarify the
clarificationception.
I had one of the original bobbleheads of Trump from Trump Marine, and I got rid of it. It's one of the few things I wish I hadn't gotten rid of.
Oh man, that's probably worth $1 million, Chris.
I used to go to the casino down there sometimes, and I forget how I got it. I think I won it somehow there, where they gave them out to people. But anyway.
We have people in the comments talking about what happened with the seniors over in New York.
Yeah.
Didn't we have a similar situation in Pennsylvania as well?
Mm-hmm.
Where Levine came in and, with these I don't want to say politicians, but government officials, I guess, they get their parents out of there, but everybody else.
Yeah,
gets
like
stuck
Governor
inside.
Wolf putting his mother up in a hotel while all the other
Sure.
old people suffer.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Thanks, Governor
for me
Wolf,
is
you
not good for
filthy
thee.
pile.
Yeah, that's different. They got a different standard.
They have their own
It's
rules.
different because we're politicians, okay?
Their lives are more important. You don't understand.
They're more
Yeah, they gotta wear
valuable.
Their lives are valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta have
Yeah.
that different standard.
And Janice Dean, from Fox News, I think she was a meteorologist on there, and I think her in-laws were affected by that, and they actually passed. So by his policy, so she's been actually investigating,
really?
and she wouldn't let it go.
okay.
Yeah, she actually has been all over the news, and she was investigating for a long time because they wanted the justice.
See if anything happens with that, right?
Yeah. In fact, Fox News headline is Janice Dean, Cuomo the monster is finally leaving. I thank God for the angels who gave us strength.
Do you think that people have questions? I think a good amount of people eventually came around to my position, right? That nothing was gonna, figuring that nothing was gonna
Sure.
happen and he was gonna
It
get
went on
away
for
with
a
it.
while. It went on for a while.
So while this was being stretched out and that was on the radar, do you think that now that he did resign, there's this appearance that people will perceive at least that, well, if he had to step down, he must have done something really wrong. Do you think that's what's going through people's minds?
Yeah.
Oh no, he maintained his innocence the whole time. I'm pretty sure he said something along the lines of, "I'm not a crook. I didn't do anything wrong. I'm just Italian."
You hear about
If
when
I
people-
recall, one of the, I don't know if it was CNN, whoever it was, they were sort of giving him leeway a little bit. You know what I mean? It was like they were really, really toting that line there because
Maybe
It
know,
was
how
probably
they
his
are
brother,
towards
Chris
Donald Trump.
Cuomo.
Every single accusation, everything at Donald Trump, forget it. You know,
Mhm.
they were
Forget
giving him
about
a lot of really tiptoeing around their words. You know, kind of saying he could run again. Do you think they would ever say about Donald Trump?
Oh gosh.
Giving him
No.
leeway to run again, given the situation, and it was just unbelievable. I was watching CNN and all different hosts, and just like Mike was just saying, when he steps down, it wasn't like, oh, he must be guilty. It was, well, I mean, if I took it that way, one CNN host, it seemed like they were kind of saying like, it's giving him a little bit of a redemption, right?
Sure.
Stepping down.
Innocent until proven really, really, really guilty.
Right. Yeah.
Innocent until proven Italian, right?
Right. Yeah, you're right. Is that an excuse
Please,
now?
can we please separate the Italian thing from all of this?
Could that be a defense, though, Mike? Could that be some
We're
sort
not
of
going to
legal
let
defense?
that slide.
I find that as a very hilarious
Really?
defense.
Right. Your Honor, I'm Italian. Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. You get a free pass.
Don't worry about the minimum mandatory sentence.
I can picture Judge Terry over in Dauphin County. No, sir. Don't you pull that with me.
Right.
Old school Italian guy. And Judge Robert De Niro.
Hey, new mask mandates today in Philly. Did you guys see that?
No.
Oh, goody.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They started it back up today. Unless you
Uh-huh.
have proof of vaccination, apparently.
And
Really?
and who's the one deciding if you have proof or not?
I think they're asking you to do it, Russ. They
Did you
probably
ever
tell
see?
you.
Did you ever see that movie Benchwarmers, where
Yeah.
you have Rob Schneider and Nick Swartzen and David Spade, and
Yeah.
they play baseball against these little league teams, basically, and there's some kind of bet on the line, and they're playing against this one little league team, and this full-grown man shows up to play on the little league team,
Yeah.
and they tell everybody that he's 12, and
Yeah, his
the
birth
umpire's there,
certificate.
and they say clearly this guy's not 12, and so they say, oh, we got a birth certificate over here showing that he's 12, and it's just like a crayon on a paper that says I am 12 with a $10 bill in it, and the umpire sees the $10 bill and he says, well, he's got documentation.
Try that out. I use those Philly Crest bucks I made a while ago.
Philly
Yeah.
And that's how you handle that situation.
I'm sure I'll end up on the floor hogtied or something.
Yeah. I mean, you're gonna get us kicked off of YouTube first, that's for sure.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Well, that's something else. Rolling back out, seen some signs on the stores, and I'm just reporting what I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
What I've seen are new signs on the gas stations saying the CDC now recommends that everybody wear a mask regardless of vaccination status. Please wear a mask. And I've also observed, I'm not making any comment on it, I'm saying what I've observed. I've observed people in these establishments not wearing masks.
You're clarifying again.
Mm-hmm.
I'm clarifying that I'm just reporting to everybody what I've observed.
I'll point out when you're
I'm saying.
clarifying.
Oh, that's okay, Mike. They're gonna kick you off anyway because you don't make them any money. The YouTubes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
And Philly, Chris, what was this list that we saw you send that you registered yourself for? Unvaccinated individuals.
Oh, what was that?
You sent like a registry list.
Yeah, right.
Where you
yeah,
can report people.
Yeah.
Was that real?
No, it's actually not real.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's not. I
No,
thought
it's
that
not
had
real.
to be
Yeah.
some kind of
Yeah.
a trolling thing.
Yeah.
The
I
fact
figured-
that it's even believable is scary.
I figured what they would do is put out some kind of trolling thing like that and see how many people would spread it, as well, right? And
Yeah, it's
say,
somebody's
"Well,
campaign
look at
ad,
these
actually.
idiots, right?
Yeah.
Look at these idiots.
Right,
see
right,
what
right.
they do. It's sort of like that one troll guy who goes out and he stirs up a bunch of stuff. He did something on, I don't know if it was the 4th of July last year, where he said they were going to burn the American flag at Gettysburg. Do you remember?
Right, I remember.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
And he had this
Yeah.
voicemail, and he said horrible things
Yeah.
on the voicemail box if you called it. And people would leave him these messages thinking it was real,
Right.
these violent messages, and he would just push those out on social media and say, see, these are the type of people that are on the right,
Right.
because
Right.
people fell for it.
Sure.
And then they
That's what
did
happens,
start
right.
up trouble. There were altercations because people showed up
Mhm.
expecting a flag burning, saying, nuh-uh,
Yeah.
that's not going to take place, and fights broke out. So
Wow.
They
There
know
were a
what
lot
they're
of flyers going on.
stirring things up. They know what they're doing. We got to be
yeah.
smart
man.
with them, though.
Yeah.
Right.
I hope
Yeah,
that
be
all of our listeners can be smarter than that. And
Don't let a good
are.
crisis
when
go to waste.
people are
Is
being
what they
set
say.
up, because there are lots of setups with these sorts of things going on out there.
Mhm.
Don't be surprised when we see these things that they're planned. The other side knows what they're doing,
Yeah.
and they succeed with this stuff a lot.
Mm-hmm.
We can't be stupid people on this side. Remember, Trump used to always say, "You get so many stupid people." It irritates me. You get stupid people on our side that hurt our cause because they bite the bait.
Right.
Don't bite the bait.
Yeah. Just stay at home and eat your
Don't be
mustard.
like me and
Not a
bite the
real
bait.
worm.
I almost got scammed today. Okay, so please.
Oh,
Tell us
tell us
what
what
happened,
happened.
Oh, I called you, Russ, midday to
What?
check with you. If it said somebody was approving for buying a MacBook on my Amazon account, and they needed. I pressed 1 to because it can. I was like, "Whoa, is somebody authorizing?" Because it scares you.
Nah,
So
that's
I
a
pressed 1 to
refund
make sure,
scam.
nobody bought that. And then they said, "Hey, we're just trying to help you. I need your 5 digits of." They were asking for something.
I need your
Yeah.
credit card just to make sure you're
I
not getting scammed.
I
Right.
said, I said, "You're a scammer," and then
You're a
and,
towel.
and he said,
You're a
"No, ma'am,
tile."
I'm just trying to help you."
Of
I
I
course.
said, "How dare you assume I'm a man?" No, I'm just kidding. I said, "Nope, you're a scammer."
Sir.
And then he hung up on me. So that was
Oh man, yeah, they usually do that. And
We couldn't play
see,
Billy Chris's tapes on the air of him messing with those people in Jersey.
Maybe we
Jersey,
should
as far as I
sometime.
understand, is a 2-party state,
That's
and
right.
Billy Chris has had the occasion of spending time in New Jersey and getting these scam calls,
Mhm.
and ultimately getting them very, very frustrated with him. I'll just put it that way.
I figured if I'm wasting some of their time, they're not ripping somebody else off.
Uh,
I have the time to keep
yeah.
them on the line for a little bit
yeah,
as well. Well,
Liberty.
maybe we could play some of them, maybe not.
Liberty, DG is disappointed in you for even using Amazon. So, and
DG just goes after everybody. DG,
Yeah.
I don't know.
listen,
Okay,
whenever
so thank
Don't
you
mess
for
with
going to
Liberty.
space recently.
whenever I get those kinds of calls, I tell them I don't have an Amazon account.
Well,
And-
was it,
And
wasn't
also,
that the moral of the
Amazon,
story is that you hadn't bought anything on Amazon and that they were just scamming you? Wasn't that the point?
Yeah, they
no.
exactly like they were scamming me, but I was like, whoa, I thought it was like somebody buying something on my credit card. You know what
That's
I mean?
what they
It was
want
like,
you to
oh,
think.
we have a pre-approval of $1,200 or something like that we're buying something, and we want your approval. It's like, huh? You know what I mean? But it's hard. I will say to her point,
Mhm.
or his point, I think we just had DG's a female, right? But it's hard in this day and age to find something that is not run by liberals. It's hard. If you'd have to look at every single thing and every single company, and it's taken over. It's taken over so much. So
Yeah.
it's definitely difficult, because I've tried to boycott China personally, because I have my personal views about how they treat animals, and sometimes it will advertise as made in the USA, but then certain parts are made in China. It's using an
Yeah.
iPhone. I mean, you have to really go after everything to take
Yeah.
every single liberal-owned company out of your life. I mean, you have to be diligent, hardcore, and it's tough.
It's hard now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it? DG says I gave them up after election. I guess DG means Amazon? And honestly, Amazon isn't even that much cheaper. In some cases, it's a lot more expensive
Yeah,
than
sometimes
every other place. I
gave
get
it up a
these
while
I get
ago, too.
these iced teas from the dollar store and from Dollar General, and it's always $1. On Amazon, it's like $4. And
Got a
like
couple of
that adds up a
I think
lot.
they add the shipping in on it.
4 times the amount. Yeah.
I hate to interrupt everybody. Not like it's my program.
Yeah, shut up, Mike. This isn't your program.
Are you going to
Not
clarify
like it's the
something,
Mike
Mike?
G in the morning program.
Are you interrupting to clarify?
We got a couple of comments I want to go through over here. We've got Jeremy Miller saying they couldn't go after Cuomo for the seniors because then they'd have to go after Wolf, Whitmer, and Governor of New Jersey, meaning
King
Murphy.
Philip.
Mm.
King
King
Philip.
Philip. That's right, Russ. That's right, King Philip. And Barbara says if they were involved, then go after them too. I like that. CB says, "Hey yo, I kiss everyone. I'm Italian, Cuomo."
That's called being a Cuomo-sexual.
I heard people are sitting on his lap.
They
a
don't
lot,
see the way
too.
Billy, Chris, and I greet one another, right?
Yeah, it could be a good.
Next
good-
time I
good-
see Billy Chris, I'm gonna kiss him on the lips and say, "I'm Italian. What do you want from me? What do you want
do it.
from me?"
We'll do a
Oh, my
promo for the show tomorrow.
A promo of Chris Mike getting a fat lip from Chris.
Yeah, at the gun show. See how many new listeners we get that way.
What do you mean you're Italian? Get off of
What
me.
are you guys doing over there?
Well, it just shows what a nonsense excuse it is, right?
Right.
Of course it's a
It's just
nonsense
dumb.
excuse.
It's a ridiculous excuse.
It wouldn't
Yeah.
work if we put any other
No.
ethnicity in there. It wouldn't work
It
either.
shows- It just shows how out of touch he is. I mean, to say that,
Right.
right?
Yeah, that's true.
Oh no, he's in touch. He's in everyone's touch.
That was good, Russ. That was good.
He's in too much touch in all the wrong places.
Did you hear people sitting on his lap a lot? Did you hear about this new thing where a lot of his...
Not.
What?
That's also an Italian thing, right? That's
Yeah, I guess so. Santa Claus, like all year long. Like...
I mean,
Santa was
people were
Italian.
saying, just gonna say, I think it was trending on Twitter. I saw it somewhere where people were saying, you know, if you're gonna go after Cuomo for this stuff, you better look at Biden, and you know how he, like, all the pictures of him and the sniffing and this and that. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Did you guys see him?
Guys, it's okay. I'm Catholic. I'm sure that's Biden's excuse, right?
Right.
You know, if Cuomo gets to be Italian, Mike, where'd you go? Oh, maybe he got a call. You know, if Cuomo gets to say, no, it's okay, I'm Italian. You know, Joe can be like, hey, it's okay, I'm Catholic. I can sniff hair. It's okay. It's in our Bible.
Okay, I'm senile.
It's okay, I'm senile. Denial ain't just a river, okay?
Right. Did you guys see he handed that young boy it looked like his mask the other day?
Who?
Biden. It looked like he had his mask. Maybe we can find that clip, Russ. He had his mask in his hand on the boy's shoulder, and then he reached down and, like, I think it was one of the governor's sons. I don't know exactly who the young boy was. Anybody else see that?
I know what the young boy was. He was unfortunate to be in the same room with Biden.
Yeah. No, it's strange though. I don't know. I just think sometimes he really doesn't know what he's doing. I mean, it's actually sad to see. Yeah.
I feel like Chris, he needs you as a right hand.
Yeah, maybe.
DG says, "Hey, leave us Catholics alone." Hey, you know what? I don't control what Joe Biden claims to be. All right.
I don't either. I don't know.
CB says he's photoshopping something right
Oh
now.
Oh, yeah?
no.
Uh-oh.
Russ, you
That's
are
a mad
actually
Photoshop
humorous
skills.
tonight. Oh wow, thanks, DG.
Bad and
Oh,
fast.
wow. DJ's giving Russ a compliment.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Oh, I have something from the YouTubes. Congratulations, you've received 100 messages today with Restream. Oh yeah, we use Restream. That's from Restream,
okay.
not the YouTube. We got
Breaking
over
through some
100
records, aren't we?
messages.
What did I miss? Fill me in.
I was
Fill
an
me in
altar
here.
boy.
Oh my gosh.
You all right, Mike? Everything good? You get an emergency call or something?
Happens more often than you'd think.
It does,
So,
especially
I don't
lately.
have
Where's
to
your
throw on a
camera?
suit and leave.
Yeah, that's good.
I don't have to throw on a suit and leave.
Oh, all right,
we had
that's
to do
good.
that one time from the station. Do you remember
Yeah,
that?
I do.
Which
Chris
one?
and I
Crazy
were
night.
at the station with Russ. I got an emergency call.
Oh, was that right before the one program we were about to record?
We had to take off out of there. I
Yeah.
thankfully had a suit in the back seat of the car. We had to stop by Philly Chris's place so I could get changed into the suit. It was in Philadelphia, and we were out till like 3 or 4 in the morning, right, Chris?
Yeah, it was a late night, and all of it was crazy. It was horrible what they did to the family. Yeah, the police and everything.
Am I on screen? Because
I can't see you. We
No,
can hear
you're
you.
not on camera, Mike. You gotta turn
All
your
right.
camera on.
Well, thanks for letting me know. It's not like
I did. When you came back, I said, "Mike, where's your camera?"
I did not hear that.
He's Italian. Don't worry about
Open your ears.
Yeah.
What are you, Italian or something? You know, as a producer, I have control over a lot of things. I do not have control over you turning your camera on. I'm sorry.
Well,
What are you, mute?
to give you that new authority.
I'm not mute. I'm just trying to figure this out. Can you see
Okay.
me now?
Yeah.
Am I back?
Yeah, long live
Ladies
and prosper.
gentlemen, Mike G in the morning.
Can you see me now, DG?
What?
DG says, "Where did Mike go? Invisible Mike." Can you see me now? Blink
Yeah.
twice if you can see me, DG.
Raise your
I guess
hand.
Robert Brady says, would love to comment more, but I can only type at the lights until someone honks.
Oh, jeez. Don't do that.
What's that?
Drive safely, Robert Brady.
Oh, driving on the road. Yeah.
I think that's what he meant, right?
Where do you see? I don't even see that in the chat.
You don't see it?
Yeah.
It's 1, 2, 3, 4. Right above.
Moving so quickly.
Leave
This
us
is great.
Catholics alone.
Great to have so many loyal listeners that we have this kind of a discussion going on. A lot of topics of discussion.
Oh,
but
I
Chris,
see.
Let's talk about, now that you can see me, let's finish that story. So we got in probably 4. How late do you think it was? 4 in the morning, maybe.
Yeah, I was around there. It was late.
It was an all-nighter.
Yeah, it was a long night. Yeah.
And basically, what happened was there was this incident, and ultimately the police were trying to pressure this gentleman into making a statement. I said, absolutely not, no statements on the phone. And the police officer is standing there and continuing to ask him questions. So I said, put me on the phone with them, because he was saying out loud, my attorney's on the phone, I'm not making any statements. And the police officers continue to ask him questions. Yeah. And that's completely unconstitutional. Once they've invoked their right to silence an attorney, for them to continue on like that, they're trying to unlawfully obtain evidence. So, so put me on the phone. I said, did you not hear him? He's represented by counsel. He is not making any statements. And he said, I'm just trying to do my job. I said, well, you're doing it wrong.
Oh.
Because under the United States Constitution, when somebody invokes the right to silence an attorney, you stop asking them questions. Do you understand? I remember my first day. And so she said, well, then I'm just going to have the detective come and talk to him. I said, you better not. And if you do, we're getting it all thrown out of court anyway. So go ahead, screw up this investigation. This is the detective show up and say, we're going to go over to your house and search your house. Mm-hmm. And the wife was home. So they head back to the house, and we get a call. Chris was driving at that point because I'm dealing with the emergency, and we had to go get changed and everything like that. And I get the call. They said they're coming on over to the house. This is the address, so we're rushing on over there. I said, if they show up, call me up right away. They show up, and they said, do you mind if we come take a look inside? She gets me on the phone. She said, I got my attorney on the phone. I said, do not consent to any searches. Ask them if they've got a warrant. And he said, well, the warrant's on its way. Do you mind if we just go in and take a look around? I said, absolutely not without a warrant. Right. Absolutely not. You don't consent to any searches. Say it out loud. Says it out loud. They said, okay, well, then we're just going to wait here. And the warrant will be here any minute. And they stayed outside. They had the lights going out there, a bunch of them standing outside. And she stayed on the phone with me, said, yeah, they're just sitting out there. And finally, we show up, and we don't see these police cars with the lights going or anything like that. Like, we in the right place? And I could swear this is the address.
Right.
Called the wife. She comes on out. We had the right place. I said, where are these police with this warrant that's showing up? Mm-hmm. They left. Right. She said, they left. There's no warrant showing up. No warrant showing up.
No.
And they're allowed to lie.
Completely fabricated.
Yeah, we're not supposed to lie to them, right?
Yeah. Messed up system. The scales of justice.
That's an example of an emergency.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Life. U.S. Law Shield emergency. Yeah.
The show suffered for that emergency. Today the show only suffered for 2 minutes for it, right? Maybe it didn't even. Maybe it made the show so much better. I'm actually. Matter of fact, I'm gonna go home now. I'm leaving.
Okay, Mike. See you. It's not like it's your show or anything.
I'm just not doing it anymore.
Time to go. Well, you have your priorities in line. That's all. Take client.
Yeah. You guys take it from there.
Somebody's calling you now.
No, it's just. It's just everyone and their mother trying to get a hold of me.
That's right. Oh, is that you, Ross?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't find that clip now on YouTube. I was looking for there. We were talking
probably,
about Biden.
It was probably
Anybody
scrubbed.
else see that? People know what I'm talking about? Biden handing the child something. I believe it was his mask.
No, I don't actively watch Biden do anything because I just find it infuriating that such a senile old fart is in office.
Yeah. Looked like he got lost at the White House yesterday, too. You guys see that? He started walking on the grass, on the lawn.
Oh, no.
Yeah. It's sad. It really is sad.
Yeah. It is sad. I mean, for him, it's definitely really obvious. I used to just really not like when they would say that about Trump. You know what I mean? Like every little thing.
Yeah.
It like so annoyed me.
CB just sent me the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we have to see it.
Yeah. CB, you're so talented.
Send it in the group text, Mike.
This program. Yeah. Please share this program with other people so we can have
Russ going to hate
more
me.
Listeners
Great.
like CB.
No, I love the.
Wait, so did I miss it? Where is it?
All right, what I'm gonna do is I'm in the dock right now.
Mike, I can't show the doc.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on page 1 and everything else down on page 2. So you're not going to divulge any information as long as you stay on page 1.
Mike, I can't show the doc.
Why not?
I don't have the screen connected.
Wait, let me see. Where is it?
There's got to be some way to get this onto the screen, Russ.
Is it on your phone?
No, because Russ, CB says Russ is going to hate me.
I just opened the doc. That's great.
Great. Now I have to see this.
You have to show
Well,
that.
are you saying that you can't get it up there? Because otherwise I'm going to have to...
What are you going to do? What are you going to do,
hold
Mike?
your phone up to your camera.
I will hold my phone up to the camera if you don't show it the right way, Russ.
Oh no, there's been some technical difficulties.
Yeah. Can you bring this up?
CB's a genius.
No, the computer doesn't even have a mouse.
That's great. There you go.
What is it?
No,
A little bit of a reflection there, but it's okay. Just you had it there for a second. That just made the whole night.
I mean, Russ,
This is the best part of the show.
Mike, all we can see is your greasy fingerprints on your phone screen.
Russ.
Oh my goodness. All right, hang on.
I'm ready to copy it and just send it to him in the chat. I mean,
I think I know how.
Oh, for God's sake. Get rid of
People see
that.
this?
Get rid of that.
Stevie.
If you can read backwards, it says, "It's okay, I'm Italian."
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
Cuomo
pretty
kissing
good.
Russ on the cheek. Can everybody see that?
Now draw one of me giving him a black eye.
That's fantastic.
There you go. I think that's
Yeah.
fine, right?
That's pretty good.
Acceptable?
Yep.
Everybody see that?
You look pretty good there, Russ. Yeah. You seem happy. What was that like? That party?
Have you guys heard I got the shot? It's in both my middle fingers. Want me to show
I
you?
was like, oh,
Okay. Oh, you got both of them?
Yep. Want me to show you?
Are we gonna break some FCC rules or something?
No. Because it's on the radio.
Oh,
Wow.
Too funny.
And I don't do camera on these shows. I don't want to end up like that guy from, what was it, Fox News, who got up and answered the door in his underwear.
Oh yeah.
No, I don't remember that one.
You don't remember that one?
Should do
No.
it anyway.
So
It was the guy was I forget what he was like being interviewed, or maybe he was a guest or something. And the door rings, and he gets up to answer it. The guy's not wearing pants.
Right.
David Coates
He's
says,
you know, dressed in a nice button-up shirt, has a tie on. You know, all that you can see on a you know, a typical headshot camera is dressed real nice. He gets up, and you can see his underwear. You can see his tighty whities.
Yeah, a lot of people have done that.
A lot of people wear underwear.
Yeah. I guess people are getting real comfortable with their Skypes, you know? Too comfortable.
yeah, just
It's a chore to remember to wear pants, honestly.
he's
Well,
like,
you
come
know.
on, it's not illegal. It's not illegal. Come on, I'm Italian. What do you think?
What? I'm Italian. I have a right to not wear pants. No shirt, no
Yeah,
shoes, no
excuse
service.
for
It doesn't
anything
mention
now.
pants.
Yeah.
David Coates emailed me. Says, I'll be bringing 18 cases of ammo just in case anyone is interested.
Awesome.
Elite Tactical Armory. EliteTacticalArmory.com, PACommercialArmory.com. 18 cases of ammo. Oak Show. Hard to come by.
Yeah.
You got a
good.
permit for that
He's
ammo?
joining us on the program tomorrow. He will be joining us. So, as I understand, there's no requirement that we go for 3 hours this evening because of the great Dan Bongino. Is that so?
You what now?
So.
There's no longer a requirement that we go for the full 3 hours, right?
No, but I think we should give the people what they came for.
We will give the people what they came for. You went through it. Russ, way too much information, seriously.
Russ does that a little often.
Well, we'll be giving them more tomorrow, too, so maybe we should save some
Yeah.
for tomorrow.
Well, okay, the 3 hours is no
We have
longer
that in the main show
required.
already.
How
Okay,
long has it been
the
so
3
far?
hours was never required to begin with.
About
It was
2
just
hours.
helpful. So,
Well, if
you can do what
it's
you
3
want.
hour, I'm no mathematician. I went to law school because I'm bad at math. But I'm pretty sure you need 3 hours to fill a 3-hour time slot, right?
What?
Usually, yeah.
If you're
No,
gonna
we
put us
got-
in the 3-hour slot, I'm pretty sure we have to.
Or 180 minutes, yeah.
Unless you slow it down, right? You just play the
Yeah,
air the
make it.
program in slow
I'll
motion.
slow everyone down and make you sound drunk.
Well,
There you go.
Russ would
Jeremy,
have us
Mike,
on
what
here
do you
all
think
night if he
debate
could.
between Dershowitz and Barnes. That's actually one that everybody should check out. So the one Dershowitz and Kennedy, brushed up on the one with
Who
Dershowitz
those guys?
and Barnes. Now with Dershowitz and Barnes, basically, for everybody who doesn't know, I'm talking because Jeremy sent me over some stuff to take a look at. And I'm talking to everybody in the audience, all 100,000 plus people, like they also sent me stuff, so they know what I'm talking about. I've got to give a little bit of background, right?
Right.
So there have been these debates going on. Jeremy brought this up on our Saturday live stream with Cash Beecham, and if you haven't checked that show out, definitely check out that interview. Got a lot of positive feedback on that one. But towards the end, Jeremy asked if I'd heard of the Jacobson case, dealing with forced vaccinations, Supreme Court case, and how it ultimately led to forced sterilization with the reasoning and analysis. The Buck case, they talk a little bit about that in a couple of these debates. One of them is between Alan Dershowitz and Kennedy. The other is between Alan Dershowitz and Barnes. And on both sides, Dershowitz is taking the position that it would be constitutional for the government to compel people to get vaccinated. Now, I think that in each of these interviews, it's less on his side about policy as it is about the constitutional law jurisprudence. So what does the case law say? What has the Supreme Court said in the past? How do we reconcile this with what we might potentially be looking at if the government seeks to compel people to be vaccinated, and in what fashion? And a lot of it goes back to that Jacobson case, which was a Supreme Court case from the early 1900s. And essentially, if you take a look at that Jacobson case, I was reading the opinion itself before. I don't have it pulled up right now. But in this case, it was decided in 1905. It dealt with a regulation that states had requiring vaccination, and if they ultimately did not get the vaccination, there was a fine, I believe, of $5. I don't know what that would be equivalent to this day and age. What do you think?
2 million. 2 million. No, I'm just kidding. What year was that?
What year is this?
1905, $5. So it says roughly $150. So really, I'm not saying that it's nothing, but it's not a significant fine, right?
Right.
Right. It's less than a traffic ticket.
And ultimately, the
fashion.
courts decided that was okay. It was actually a 7-2 decision.
Oof.
So it really wasn't close.
Okay.
And they said the Massachusetts law did not violate the 14th Amendment. And part of this opinion was relied upon in a New York case fairly recently. It didn't really have to do directly with this. It had to do with, it was a company, one of these axe throwing sort of bars. You hear this? This is becoming more and more popular these days, right? I'm hearing all about this. Anybody know? Maybe some of our listeners will know about this. These axe throwing bars.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've done that. It's fun.
I've heard of them.
But it wasn't at a bar, just on the street.
You went and
Yeah.
And it wasn't a competition. I was just throwing
Yeah.
an axe at a
There's parts
guy.
of Philly where they just
throwing
turn a
axes.
blind eye.
And also, somebody hired me to do it.
I have done it. Cody.
And also,
So
please
Jeremy
defend me
says
in court
Dershowitz
next Thursday.
position-
Uh-huh.
Jeremy says Dershowitz's position was that the government can send someone into your house and stick a needle into your arm. I know he said that at one point. I don't know. Well, and one of the hosts, I think, in one of the debates that you referenced, asked him, said, "It seems like you've walked that back." He said, "No, I haven't walked it back at all." And he was talking about, how the case law obviously hasn't changed. I believe the analysis to be the same. It would seem to me that if you look at the facts of Jacobson, there's this old saying that easy cases make bad law, right? Hard
Right.
cases make bad law. I think where it started, and then went into easy cases. So you got a fact pattern, and you know this ought to be the result. How do we get there? And sometimes the reasoning on the way, because it's such a simple case, really screws you up. And that gets handed down to future cases because of the principle of precedent. And that is exactly what happened. You see a fact pattern like a $5 fine, that maybe they don't take it quite seriously. Durso says, what about a medical or religious exemption from vaccination? And certainly something like that would have to be considered by anybody's standard. I believe even anybody who took the most hard-lined approach to the constitutional analysis and said that it would be constitutional to force vaccination would agree that based on different constitutional principles, medical and religious exemptions would have to be taken into consideration. So that's
the part that I'm seeing from this is, who was it that said it was constitutional for a government official to come into your house and stick a needle in you? Because that sounds to me
that's the jump. That's the jump further, right? Because the real question is, can the government compel people to be vaccinated? And then the second question is, well, how would that be done? How could that be done? And in the Jacobson case, you're talking about the government compelling vaccination because if you don't, then you're prosecuted and fined $5 in this fact pattern. The problem is, like, shut up. What are you complaining about for a $5 fine, right?
Yeah,
why are you bothering the Supreme Court of the United States?
Basically $5 to say, okay, go away now.
they kick him, they kick him out of there and come up with this decision that has impact on decisions down the road that could have more substantial consequences. That's the issue there.
Okay. So,
but I would say that it's certainly a different fact pattern for the government upholding a fine as it is for the government to physically force a vaccination on somebody. Well, there's a difference between saying, if you don't have it, we're going to fine you, and saying, we're coming to your house, like Jeremy mentions, and sticking a needle into your arm.
Okay, so to me, to my non-lawyer brain, but still kind of in tune with some laws, the jump forward of somebody potentially coming to your house, uninvited and on your property, that's trespassing, coming into your house uninvited, perhaps breaking and entering, and then sticking a needle in your arm, that sounds like assault to me. I don't think that's a realistic thing that's going to happen anytime soon. However, the fine portion of it, my next question is, let's say, forget about the $150 conversion. Let's say it stays $5. How long is that fine good for? Because if I were to be fined $5 today, and I said, okay, here's your $5, now get off my property and never come back, okay? Do they get to fine me again because I still don't have the vaccination the next day? How long does that $5 bill keep them away from me? How good is that $5 restraining order?
Well, the guy that's running that gym in New Jersey, they keep fining him like every day he stays open. I think he's hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines, right?
Oh, okay.
Attila's gym.
Yeah, so what's going to happen eventually?
Yeah,
somebody's got to pay the piper, right?
Somebody's going to lose. Hopefully, it's the government that loses.
Yeah, I hope so. Well, doesn't look like it's going that way these days, though.
I mean, with New Jersey, you never know.
Yeah.
King Philip can do whatever he wants, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
No, and there are principles that go into this discussion that have nothing to do with the case law. And it'd be interesting to see how this makeup with the Supreme Court would ultimately rule on a forced vaccination. The question becomes, though, what does the forced vaccination look like?
Exactly. How do they plan to execute that?
Looks like tyranny kind of.
Yeah, you know what?
I
I
mean,
was thinking that. I was thinking,
think that's how it looks.
here's a picture of it, and there's
Yeah.
tyranny, and it looks like a carbon copy, honestly.
And we're still talking about a vaccine that hasn't even been approved.
It's
And,
not even FDA approved.
no, and there's still a lot of complications,
I mean,
coming
that's
to
a
light.
that's
So.
a concern for a lot of people. A big concern for a lot of people is the legal immunity
Mhm.
goes along with,
Right.
Big Pharma has the
Right.
legal immunity from this
Right.
stuff, and
Yeah, there's
that's not
that,
just
too.
particular to this vaccination either.
hmm And then if they do this, what's next? What can they do next to tell you whether or not you can fly or have a job or comply with modern society?
Well, that's essentially what people are
Yeah.
fearing with the whole, prove you're vaccinated. Where are your papers, basically?
Yeah, and they just
and-
started that up now in Philly. So basically, if you're not going to wear a mask now, then you need to show some sort of documents. I'm not sure what those are. I guess your vaccine card.
Can it be like from the bench warmers where it just says "I am vaccinated" in crayon?
I think so. Yeah, you just have to slip a little.
Signed,
text in there.
the
give you some of those
doctor.
Billy Chris books, yeah. Process.
I'll just sign it for Dr. Fauci. Don't worry, I can forge a signature. I'm Italian. They all
I
look
just
the
find
same,
it
right?
so annoying how they're so like the sign. Everything's still developing because this is all so new, right?
Mhm.
So, but how come they're so gung ho and 100% certain about all these articles that they're putting out there about, okay, you get the vaccine, then, the hospital rate goes down, right? But they're not looking at the people who have had the virus. What's the hospital rate for that? That's what I was really, really researching this weekend, like trying to find more information on that, and you cannot find it.
What is the impact of natural immunity?
Yeah, like if you're
Mhm.
very few articles and if you naturally have it, how come they're not putting out articles even though they don't have all the facts yet? Because they're certainly willing to do it for everything regarding vaccinations. They're just putting headlines out there, right? But for if you've had the virus, by fate, you got the virus and your natural immunity, they're putting all these headlines out there on the other side of things. But flip the coin, because a lot of us have had the virus.
Sure.
And we
And
want
there's-
to know facts, but it's at the point
And
now
then-
we don't even trust the facts. But the HR, I call it. I'm calling it the HR, the hospitalization rate. That's their big point on the vaccine. Because okay, well the vaccine may not prevent the virus, but it's going to prevent you from being hospitalized, right? What about people who have had the virus? Let's see some more information on that. They're just not willing to put it out there.
Right. And
Because
I've
it
seen
doesn't push
doctors
their
come
agenda.
out. I've seen some doctors come out saying that if you've had it, that your natural immunities are better. I've heard the opposite argument too, but what is the truth there?
But
Right.
I've barely seen that. That's being buried. It's
Right.
being buried by all the vaccination because they want it. I mean, there's new trending headlines on Twitter every other day. It's like post your pictures if you're pregnant and you're vaccinated. We want to get rid of this. We're seeing a flood of stories of negative vaccine reactions. Let's see the good ones. I mean, these are campaigns being pushed, right? So they're saying
There's
post
that-
your
that,
pictures under this of pregnant women, of you're pregnant and you were vaccinated. Post your pictures of they said post pictures of good stories with the vaccination.
Mm.
And
To
then people
drown
underneath
out
are
the bad
commenting and say, well,
ones.
here's my real story.
How about post all stories?
Right.
How
Right?
about that?
That's exactly it.
Right.
Post true stories. Thank you.
Mhm. Well, there's that
That
VAERS
escalated
database, too.
quickly.
I believe there's up to 400,000 entries in it now. Now, I don't know that they've all been confirmed, but I don't know how many people are going around falsifying information about themselves. I mean, it's possible, but I believe there's 400,000 entries in that database now about people who believe they've had complications as a result of it. So that's quite a few.
Doesn't matter because they can't sue anybody.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
There's
And
there's
just have that
nothing
right
that
here.
can be done,
COVID-19
especially if you're
survivors
dead.
are twice as likely to get reinfected are urged to get vaccinated. It's like they just say twice as likely to get reinfected. That was one of the headlines I read. That doesn't sound good, right? When you
What
actually
was
read
it,
it,
Liberty?
it says COVID-19 survivors are twice as likely to get reinfected or urged to get vaccinated. When you actually look at the article, it's COVID-19 survivors are twice as likely to get reinfected than those who were vaccinated, right? So like they're just comparing vaccinated and unvaccinated. But I've seen a lot of headlines. It's just scaring people. Like you're twice as likely to get it if you've already had COVID. What are you seeing from that? You're saying I can get reinfected. I better get the vaccination. It's just every
Right.
single headline is just focused on this vaccination.
Yeah,
Let's
I-
focus on natural immunity too.
I've noticed that
On there-
too, and that part really grinds my gears because why is it so? You know that when someone like the mainstream media is so hyper focused on something, you know that they're also up to something in the background, because I've gone over this before. It was the call to the Ukraine guy. It was Russia. It was the impeachment. It was the second impeachment. It was, I forget what else was in between there, but it was stupid. It was false, and they were so hyper focused on it. And meanwhile, they were doing other stuff in the background, probably creating this virus, to be frankly honest. And it comes out from the CDC. Oh, you don't have to wear a mask if you got if you got your second shot, and it's been like 2 weeks or whatever. And I think they just told us that so that more people will get vaccinated. And it's like, okay, I'll get vaccinated, then I don't have to wear a mask. Oh wait, this new variant came out. Oh darn, geez there, bud. We gotta start the whole thing over again there. It's like, okay, so you told us to mask up, then you told us to get vaccinated. People didn't want to do that because they thought it was pointless, which it turns out that it probably is. And then you said, okay, get the vaccination and you don't need a mask. Oh wait, you do need a mask. We mandate it. Mandate. Not the thing that you would go see Cuomo for.
4 masks, maybe.
Yeah, you got to wear 2 masks. You got to be 3 masks. It's
when
ridiculous.
It comes to science, it's just amazing how the details don't really matter.
Well, when it comes to science, so I heard
There's
on
not a lot of science going on.
Yeah, right.
I heard on.
We need some more science.
Yeah, and I'm not a scientist, and it seems obvious. So, but who knows? Maybe I'm wrong.
Right, but we were all taught in third grade science that in order to have an experiment of like reactions to something, you have to have a test group and a control group, right? So it's very basic. So if this, then that, you test your hypothesis. Well, I heard on both Ben Shapiro and Dan Bongino's program, I think it was yesterday or the day before, that there was this study that was being conducted of schools that had mask mandates, but they didn't compare it to mask not mandated schools. They just said, oh yeah, this is how it goes. This is, it reduced this many cases. And it's like, okay, compared to what? Compared to what? Because you didn't have a control group of not having people mandated to do this.
Sure.
And it just gets on my nerves.
I'll be honest with you. I'm sick of the discussion about how they've been bouncing around. They don't know what they're talking about. How many times have you had this discussion over the last year and a half? I'm sick of it. I think we should all be at the point now. Yes, we know they've changed their mind 9 million times. We get it. They're changing their mind again. We get it.
Right.
It's almost like we have to...
It's almost like they don't know what they're doing.
Well, it's clear they don't. And I think the problem is that they don't admit that. I think the problem is they don't admit that. I think people would have had a different view about them if they would have come out at the beginning and said, listen, we don't know exactly what's going on here. We don't claim to have all the answers. We're trying to figure this out. We want to do the right thing. But instead they came out and said, no, shut up. You're not a scientist, and I'm a scientist, and this is what we're putting out there. I'm actually taking some effort, unlike Russell, to not get us kicked off the air and still have the point put across. It takes some effort to do so. And they say, no, I'm a scientist, you're not, so this is what you need to do. And then the next day they come out and they say, oh, remember what I told you what to do yesterday? It's actually the opposite that you need to do, because I'm a scientist. It's like, well, weren't you a scientist yesterday? Well, you don't understand. We didn't have all the answers, plus I lied. That's why we talked about yesterday.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay.
But I'm a scientist, so that's okay.
Why didn't you say so? As long as you didn't know everything and you lied when you told us you did know everything, then I'll trust you moving forward.
Yeah.
Now I trust you moving forward. Thank you. As long as you look me in the eye, hold up your right hand and pinky swear to me that now you're not lying and you do know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Then
and you're Italian.
And you're Italian.
Yeah. Or you know.
Obama says
you-
kissing on the lips is perfectly fine, right?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
We're getting a lot of comments on. We're getting a lot of people have a lot to say. Check out the chat. In the meantime, did anybody hear about, I guess, the Obama's party?
Hold on.
Oh,
Give me a minute.
oh, I thought you were
Like
finished.
3 things written down over here to try to get to. I'm getting run over like a freight train lately.
Mike's got notes.
What, Mike? Is this your show or something?
A couple of shout outs we got to get in here. We've got Pastor Teresa from New York who's listening on in. Says she loves the show. Thank you for listening, Pastor Teresa.
Pastor Teresa.
Pastor Teresa out over from the Brooklyn days over there. We love you, Pastor Teresa. Thank you for listening. I also want to give another shout out. Writing in every week, Tim Werdak. You're going to run out of shout outs eventually. Tim Werdak, hey now. Give him a hey now.
Hey now.
Tim Werdak.
Jinx.
Hey now.
Give him a hey now, Russ. Give him a hey now.
Hey now. I did it at the same time as Chris. He owes me a soda.
And you guys did it in unison. It was a,
Get you a Mountain Dew.
It was a chorus of hey now angels.
Hey now.
You're an all-star.
Give him a hey now. Tim Werdak, hey now. Who else we got? You know, I got to tell you this. My buddy Mitch sent me a text message. I don't know if this is real, but it was an article that said, man who had the vaccine gets COVID and dies. But doctors say, and part of the article was something along the lines of doctors say had he not had the vaccine, it would have been much worse.
Oh.
Wow.
I don't know if you're just busting my job. It's real.
Sounds about right.
It's pretty funny, right?
Yeah.
Oh, well,
He would've-
gee,
he
it
would've
could have
been
been
very
wise.
Yeah.
He would have been
Died
very
a lot
dead.
sooner.
My
Yeah.
brother-in-law always tells me the story. He's a law enforcement officer. One of the
Could've
first calls he
suffered
got
less.
when he went out was somebody had been. It was a car accident. Somebody had been driving a van and had heavy cargo in the back. I think it was cases of liquor or something like that from floor to ceiling, and no cage between the driver and the cargo. Well, there's a reason why you shouldn't do that. This guy had to stop short. I don't know if he actually hit something, but all of the cases came forward and absolutely squashed this driver like a bug, just crushed him like a bug. And my brother-in-law always says that when he showed up to that scene and looked through that window, that driver was very dead. It wasn't just that. This guy was very dead.
Extremely dead.
Apparently, had that guy not had the vaccine who died, he would have been very dead, right?
Very dead.
Not just dead, very dead.
The moral of the story is don't
Sounds
drink.
scientific.
Very dead.
It's a very scientific term, I think. Mike
Yes,
created there.
he was very dead. He would have been more dead had he not had the vaccine. He would have succumbed to the droplets.
Miller raises a good point over here. This is something that I wanted to talk about. It's just as prevent others from getting sick. Oh, maybe there was something higher up that I'm not seeing right now. They told us the vaccine would prevent others from getting the okay. They told us the vaccine would prevent others from getting sick. Turns out you're just as likely to spread the virus with the vaccine. The symptoms just aren't as bad. Okay. Well, that seems to be the major point of the argument for people like Dershowitz. Dershowitz talked about this quite a bit, saying is your freedom to swing your fist ends at the tip of my nose, meaning you can do whatever you want. You could even do something to hurt yourself. Doesn't end at the tip of your nose. You can punch yourself in the nose. But the minute you start affecting other people, that's not freedom anymore. And I think that makes sense. That's a reasonable principle.
I swing my
But-
arms all the time.
The question is, how far does that extend? What kind of harm are we willing to tolerate? What kind of risk are we willing to tolerate as a society? Because certainly people spread things like the common cold, right?
Sure.
Will that
Where
eventually
you draw
be?
that line, right?
Where do you draw that line when it comes to interacting with other human beings in public
Right.
and the potential for spreading or contracting these types of diseases or illnesses? Because I said it a few weeks ago. I think the way, maybe it's even a few months ago at this point, but I think the way it's going is this. We noticed that people were saying things are starting to get back to normal, and now they're not, right? Another thing that we can all say is that we're hearing a lot in the media that there was no flu this last year, right?
Right.
Nobody died, not nobody, but there were very few flu deaths.
Mhm.
And they say it's because of the measures that were taken in response to COVID-19.
So we should
Meaning-
just do those all the time, right?
Well, oh, that's exactly right, Russ. If you would shut up and let me finish my point.
What do you mean, shut up? You trying to tell me something, Mike?
Interrupting me. I let you talk. I don't cut you off and just
You
tell what
always
I
cut
think
me off,
your
Mike.
sentence should be. Don't
I'm
finish my
listening, Mike.
sentence. I'm not Mario Cuomo over here. I just said Mario Cuomo. That just shows what an old man I am. Did you notice that? I said Mario Cuomo. Does anybody know who Mario Cuomo is?
Yeah.
Is he
Mario Cuomo
the
was his
lesser
father.
Cuomo?
Yeah.
His father, the governor.
Is there a bridge named after him or something?
Not, I think so.
Yeah, people jump off of it.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with Fredo Cuomo.
Right.
Yeah. So ultimately, what could be down the road, and what concerns a lot of people, is you look at the fact that they're saying all these measures were put in place, and therefore people did not get the flu, and therefore fewer people died from the flu. Who's to say that? And I'm not saying that coronavirus is a thing of the past or anything like that, but who's to say that if that were what we all consider to be under control, that they wouldn't move on to the next thing and say, okay, well,
Sure.
even though we got the COVID thing out of the way, now we're more enlightened and we know that we can save this many deaths from the flu if we only take these measures all the time.
Right.
So we want to impose these lockdowns. We want to impose these mask mandates. We want to impose a law that everybody has to get the flu shot.
Right.
And if you don't participate in this, if you're not okay with the government mandating these things and compelling people to do these things, well, then you're just a very selfish person. And you just don't care if you kill other people. We had fewer deaths when we took these measures, right? Fewer people had the flu, so fewer people died of the flu. And you want to go back to normal? What kind of sick person are you?
Right.
What kind of insensitive, inconsiderate person are you that you want to go back to normal when more people died of the flu, when all we have to do is shut down all these businesses, impose these mask mandates, continue with social distancing,
remove your freedom,
have lockdown.
Could save one life.
It just saves one life. That's what they always do with the firearms, right?
Right. Right.
If we go through all these measures, we impose these measures, if it just saves one life. Jeremy says we don't know if there were less flu deaths because the PCR test can't distinguish between COVID and the flu.
We talked about that on the show a few times. It's a great point. Yeah.
Even if you take that as a presumption, right? You presume that as true. Do you think that's going to be part of the discussion?
They've acknowledged it now.
The people, come on, Jeremy. The people who I'm talking about who would say this in the first place, do you think they'd say, oh, well, I guess we can't do any of that because the tests weren't really that accurate? No. These are people with a specific agenda, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah, SM Durso says, my understanding, the test cannot differentiate. Yep, yep. It looks like Durso and Jeremy are on the same page.
And we talked about that months ago, which probably could have got us removed on YouTube because back then it wasn't science, even though they've admitted it now. You know.
I love how they didn't remove that episode. They removed the episode where we did absolutely nothing wrong, right?
Right.
No, we criticized big tech in that one.
Well,
that was the cardinal sin, right?
Yeah.
Lords.
Cardinal sin is to pick a fight with the overlords. Like, how dare you criticize us?
We'll show you. That'll learn you.
Yeah. Well, and the thing that I worry about really too, looking at the comments right now on the social media platforms, is they really have created such a divide now between the vaxxed and the unvaxxed, and there's this hatred going on. I mean, the comments are just out of control now. You know, people are basically calling people who are not interested in the vaccine, you know, murderers at this point. You know, it's very similar again to pre-Nazi Germany, where they used that excuse with the Jews, that they were causing disease and, you know, it was for your safety. The government's here to save us, apparently, from something that's supposedly natural that could have potentially leaked from a lab, which may be man-made. So, you know, is it our fault that we get infected. None of us had anything to do with the origin of the virus. So
It's never the
yeah,
government's
it's
fault.
maddening at this point.
I do want to say this. I think we should be very careful with exactly the way we compare things to Nazi Germany, the Holocaust, things of that nature, and things along those topics, because, for one, it irritated me when the left would do that anytime Donald Trump did anything, right?
Sure. Sure.
They would just come in, oh, he's Hitler. Now we're in Nazi Germany. Every time he did anything,
Yeah.
that would be,
He sneezed.
go
Oh
to.
my God, he's Hitler.
yeah.
But really, when you look at things now, and the reason I do that is
hold
I've never
on,
seen our
hold on,
civil.
hold on.
Yeah.
And you also, you don't want to be disrespectful to suffering that people did endure during these things. So it's important not to just throw that out there.
Right.
And I don't think that's what you're saying. But again, I got to clarify the clarification, right? Just to keep
Right.
us on the air.
We're doing a little clarification here. Yeah.
Right.
A clarification party. Everybody's invited.
Mhm.
Feel free to clarify yourself in the comments.
Let me just clarify that everybody's invited to the clarification party.
Yeah.
Jeremy says, oh, I know that, and you know that. I just find it amazing that others can't see the BS they're spewing. Very true. A lot of stupid people out there, Jeremy. There's stupid people, and then there's Mike G in the Morning listeners. Right? There's the Mike G in the Morning family, Mike G in the Morning family, and then there are the stupid people. What do we got over here? You looking at?
Oh yeah.
Is this
Yeah, that was
Mr.
that
I
video.
I don't have the capabilities to show things on the screen. I can't show the picture of Cuomo.
Okay,
giving me a kiss on
Mike,
the lip.
Mike,
That's the video.
I do not
Yeah,
have
not a
fine
dog.
control over this computer. I am remoting to it from my phone. Stop.
Okay, so the Cuomo
Because
picture's
you
on the
already
phone.
showed the picture.
Do it now. No. I want a nice crystal clear
Oh, for God's
shot of
sake,
that
Mike.
image
Oh, for God's
on this
sake.
program before we watch any videos.
Yeah, hang on.
I command you.
You are frozen currently, and Philly Chris looks like a pile of pixels.
I don't think so.
What happened?
I do.
I don't think so. I see him perfectly fine.
Everything's
and
clear.
Are you looking at the
Mine.
stream?
I can see myself.
Because as a producer, my job is to also monitor the stream. And
Alright.
you are currently frozen on the stream, fool.
Okay. Well, are you sure?
I hope the entire stream is not frozen.
Mm.
I will be checking
Yeah, I
that
see
on my
something
phone.
going on. Philly Chris looks
See? Mike,
It's
Moving a
frozen.
little-
Mike's a
little bit.
goose and doesn't believe me.
I think it's no. I
As long
think
as
it's
people
frozen.
can hear us.
was for a second.
Yeah.
It looks like
Hey, why don't you type "Hey now" in the comments if you can hear us? Give us
it
a
looks
hey
like
now.
our
We're always
audio.
giving everybody else a hey now.
What?
Right. Hey
We're always
now.
giving everybody else a hey now.
Hey now.
SM Durso says I can
Hey
see
now.
all good
Oh.
here.
Okay, well maybe it's just on my end. It looks like Restream is also frozen. Hang on, let me try refreshing it.
You still at the North Pole, are you, Russ?
Yeah, the
Refresh.
bandwidth kind of sucks here. Oh, there we go. Okay, it's fine now.
Oh, I look fuzzy.
Chris
You
looks
always
fuzzy.
look
Chris
fuzzy,
is
Chris.
fuzzy.
Damn
That's
it.
just because he
Yeah,
hasn't
that's
shaved
right.
in a while.
I'm gonna change his
Right.
name tag here to Fuzzy Wuzzy.
Fuzzy Wuzzy.
I'm preparing to
All
go
good now.
on
All right,
location.
so we're good.
Undercover.
We're back to normal.
All right,
We
so
got a comment over here. Whatever
we doing?
happened to washing your hands, eating healthy, taking vitamins, keeping your kids home when they are really sick? Public schools require a doctor note after a child misses 3 days. That's something that I forget who I was talking with. Maybe it was one of my law clerks at the office. And they were saying that throughout this entire period, you don't hear the quote-unquote scientists really mentioning anything about a healthy lifestyle, right? Staying in shape, maybe combating obesity, losing weight, eating vegetables, and getting all of your vitamins and nutrients and everything like that.
Right.
Making sure you're not deficient in any manner. You don't hear a whole lot about that. Certainly, that's
You
not gonna be
happy?
bad for you, right? Like, are they going
Well,
to take that off as
drive-
medical
drive-throughs are-
misinformation? Like, to what extent are we
drive-
allowed to even say that? To what extent are we even allowed to say that? That it's a good thing to be in shape, work out.
you're fat shaming. Shut up.
Well, Really, because
He's
if
shaming
we
my
mention
fat.
this in the context, if we mention this in the context of coronavirus, I'm not saying that it's the cure or any type of surefire prevention or anything like that. But why are we not hearing anything about, hey, it might be a good thing if you attain a healthy weight and you have a healthy diet and you make sure you get all your vitamins.
So put down the Doritos, fatso.
Why
Go
don't we do
run.
that?
Go for a run.
I've never seen drive-through so busy in the whole of my life. Every drive-through you go by these days. There's a huge
Russ
line.
already answered it.
That's another thing.
What's that?
That's
Russ
another thing.
already
Can
answered
I go off on a
What's that?
rant on this? Can I rant on this? Okay.
Yeah, go
So
ahead.
we have this pandemic, all right? And the point is to avoid people, and you probably will lower your chances of getting infected. Now, everyone wants to now order food so that they don't have to go to, I guess, a busy restaurant to go pick it up. I'd rather go to a busy restaurant, perhaps in a mask, although probably not, and pick up the food myself rather than involve yet another person in the handling of my food, putting it in their gross car where other people will probably sit, and bringing it to my house. You are adding another person into the mix whenever you order food to your house.
It's true.
Perhaps the way to prevent more spread is to stop ordering out. Cook more of your own food. And if you are terrible at cooking, hire an Italian. I heard Cuomo's looking for a job.
Did your doorbell just ring? Is that your doorbell I heard in the background?
No, I don't
Russ,
have a
aren't you,
doorbell.
like,
I'm
the
sorry.
king of like getting takeout for pizza and
That's what
calzone.
I was just-
No.
Yeah.
No, I switched to making my own food. I buy
But
these
during this, they funneled everybody to the
He
same
makes
places,
his own
you know,
gas
how many
station
places
hot
were
dogs.
open.
I don't
His
wanna
own
go.
gas station hot dogs.
I don't know.
You don't want to know what's in those gas station hot dogs, though. Trust me, I made them myself.
I don't
They're
know.
nasty. I
could
don't
get
even eat
into
'em.
Conspiracy theories on this, but you know how it came from China? And
What came
we're
from
finding
China?
out that it was from a laboratory.
Yep.
I mean, obviously, what we're all thinking is the next step
Mm.
is purpose or not on purpose, right? Accidental or
Mm.
on purpose. United States has the biggest fast food industry, and a lot of
Yeah.
overweight people. Are you connecting the dots potentially?
wonder
this
if
was
they're
that
putting it in the
bioweapon,
food.
and this was all purpose. Just saying. And to that point, which is very unpopular for
That
me, which
damn
is
hamburger got it again, right?
yeah. I mean, my brain goes there right away. It's like, I mean, everybody does.
We're
say,
definitely not getting kicked off of YouTube, right?
Yeah, I just
Uh,
gotta
do-
stop. So I
hey,
better stop right
The
now.
hamburglar is responsible for the coronavirus.
Right, right. And
Playing the whole.
Should
thing.
we have
I mean,
somebody
but if
fact
it's a
check
virus
Liberty
that?
figured it out.
If it's a virus that
Crack the
attacks
case.
people in
Ronald
certain-
McDonald is responsible for the coronavirus.
No, I'm just
Ronald
saying.
McDonald is responsible for obesity. Let's be real here.
Yeah, I mean that's
And
my
the
point.
coronavirus.
If they were gonna handpick a virus for United States, what's everybody always say and make fun of America for?
Because they're
You know,
fat.
the way we eat.
They're
Yeah.
fat,
Look,
drunk,
I
and stupid.
have a copy of the paper from tomorrow morning. USA Today, Liberty Lee from the Mike G in the Morning Show is making claims that
Right. Listen to these right-wing extremist crackpot conspiracy theories.
right.
They think
And then-
Ronald McDonald invented the coronavirus.
Well, Ronald
Uh,
McDonald
Hey,
was
look,
invented
viral,
by
though.
But
Good
China.
my whole
marketing,
point,
Liberty. You're
yeah, but
onto
my point
something.
is not even just that. That might be like bad. But I personally still think, and nobody's changing my mind, that the virus affects everybody differently. There's no rhyme or reason because I believe it's a bioweapon.
Mm-hmm.
And but I think that they may have targeted the United States because we have a special problem, and we can't say go out there and special. We can't go out there and say like Russ said because of what Russ said. He was joking, but he said it's not politically. Or what did you say, Russ?
You fat
Stop fat
shaming.
shaming? Yeah.
You fat
It's,
shaming, trying to get
it
me to
is
be
becoming a
healthy.
thing, you know, but I'm not saying people who are obese are the only ones affected by this at all. I don't believe that. because I
Well,
think
the
it just
stats
affects
show
everybody
they're
different.
significantly much higher at risk, though. So you do bring up a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, they're higher at risk, but I definitely think no matter what, you can get affected by it pretty severe.
Sure. Sure.
Because I think it was created for that. Just my
Could be.
Obesity is definitely not a help when you contract the virus, right?
It's not helpful in a lot of ways.
Obesity is bad, okay?
You should work out more, okay?
You should work out more.
Just check with your government. Make sure it's okay, okay?
It's politically correct to say wash your hands, but it's not politically correct to say lose weight.
Yeah.
Is it politically correct to say wear some deodorant?
So if you know, this is something that's to your detriment if you contract the virus, and it doesn't help. Certainly doesn't help to be obese, and the effects on our society as a result of the virus are causing more people to become obese. Is that your point, Liberty? It's the perfect storm. It goes round and round. It's like a merry-go-round.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a circle. Never ends.
We're all
Right.
wearing masks and, everything has changed. I just feel like
Is anybody at all concerned about the immune system when it comes to other things because of all the social distancing and mask wearing? Is this a side effect, collateral consequence of all this stuff taking place, that
what do you mean?
People do come into contact with some other type of germs that it could pose a problem because we have weakened immune systems? And then if there's another thing that happened to go to a bat or a lab or whatever we want to say that we're allowed to say on YouTube, right? If there just so happened to be another accident involving a bat or a lab or a weasel or whatever they want us to say.
A lab that's named after the next virus.
A laboratory bat weasel. Then, another disease from a laboratory bat weasel that may or may not have been distributed on purpose.
Right.
Then would
the Republican
people
bat
be
weasel
more severely affected by that because of all of the things we've had to do in the last year and a half, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
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 I think that was like
seems good.
a 2 a.m. conversation with Billy, Chris, and I in March of last year. I was like, bro.
I think so.
I remember? I was like, what if?
Right. And here we are.
What if this was all just round one? And they wanted everybody in their house to weaken the immune system. They could put all this in place. And then, ba-boom!
Right.
Yes. Like a biological atomic bomb.
Seems more plausible now, though, right? Doesn't it? Yeah.
What's that?
It seems more plausible now, right? Seems more plausible now that we've seen everything happen. That's a possibility.
It's very difficult to believe just about anything, right?
Right. Yeah.
Very difficult.
I guess we'll see. Time will tell. Yeah.
Just depends on what the news says. Before they said we need those masks and they were going to protect everything, and now we see there's different. And then it was the vaccines, and it's always something. It's whatever the media says.
A long time ago. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of things we talked about.
They said it was not escaped from a lab, right? I mean, it's just whatever. I just picture all those headlines in my head that were now just.
It's a silly conspiracy theory.
Right. Yeah.
Conjured up by the right-wing Republicans.
Yeah.
Just so happens the lab where they were studying coronaviruses that were gain of function funded.
No, Chris, get out of here with your pesky facts.
Yeah. Right. And then soon after the suspected virus that has the S protein that naturally infiltrates the human genome much better was released upon the Earth, and then all the scientists suddenly disappeared. And then they did what they put $6 million into their filtration system after all that happened. We just found out recently too. I don't know if you guys heard about that. So who knows? Was it an accident? Was it on purpose? What's coming next? Well, ladies and gentlemen, tune in to Mike G in the Morning to find out more.
But just really quick, one last thing. Do you remember watching a video on some doctor? I remember watching a YouTube video. We were all sharing it just amongst us, saying that she thought it was escaped from a lab, and the media was saying exact opposite. She was looked at as a nut.
Long since debunked. This is debunked.
They were calling her a nut.
Obviously came from a bat weasel.
Right.
we've talked
Mike, look
about
at the text
Mockingbird
thread.
program on the show, and that's out in the public domain now. That people since the 40s have been on the dole of these three-letter agencies and mainstream media to share propaganda. That's happening a lot right now. It's pretty obvious, I think.
I love the three-letter
For
agencies.
sure, but if you're a critical thinker and you listen to both sides of the media, I mean, one side they're completely the opposite. So it's just a lot of distractions against reality. So we have to decide.
It's interesting though.
Suppose what's best.
There are a lot of people who have just decided at this point that they don't trust the government. But unfortunately, when they keep flipping back and forth on the position, that makes for a very inconsistent position, doesn't it? Because if they have two different positions day after day, and you just don't believe what you take the opposite position, then you're going back and forth day after day. For example,
so you
Chris,
have to be
not if you
that,
ignore them.
That's why I'm saying critical thinking. Yeah.
Somebody can look this up. Russ could probably pull this out. Maybe we could do this for next week.
Mike.
But Chris and I were sitting in that studio right before the lockdowns talking about the coronavirus.
Yeah.
And a virologist wrote in to the program. Didn't want to be named on the air because they, feared backlash being on the Freedom Station.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thought they could lose their job, but wrote in a
That's
pretty
very telling.
Well, it is, but they wrote in a pretty substantial couple of paragraphs about what they believed to be going on at that time. And I read it on the air.
I remember that.
And part of what they said was, and I'm just reporting what was said. I'm just documenting this. I want to get kicked off
Don't
for
bend over for the overlords, Mike. We're already going to get
we
kicked
should have
off.
code words, right?
Yeah.
We should have code words.
Or for dog.
Zucchini.
Yeah, zucchini.
Oh, yeah. Basically, okay.
The zucchini
So basically
virus.
what this person said was, don't bother wearing a zucchini on your face because zucchinis don't work. Basically what they said was, they said the size of the virus in comparison to the zucchini isn't going to make it effective. Don't buy them. You don't need them. Plus, all the medical professionals on the front lines, like doctors and nurses, need the zucchinis. And as I was reading this on the air, I turned to you, Chris, and I said, well, wait. If zucchinis don't work, then why do the doctors and the nurses need zucchinis?
Right.
That doesn't seem to make sense to me. But it was real quick, and then we moved on. Well, other people started to take that position, too. They said, well, wait, the government's telling us not to do this. I think that the answer is that we probably need to do this. So people start using zucchinis.
Yeah.
And then
there was a run on zucchinis,
And then the government comes out and says, whoa, hold on. As a matter of fact, everybody's got to wear zucchinis. I know that we said that they don't work, but everybody's got to wear zucchinis now. Yeah. And then the people who were out there buying the zucchinis when the government said not to were like, oh, heck no, I ain't wearing no stinking zucchini.
CB better have a cartoon of this.
Completely flipped overnight.
Right.
I don't understand.
Right. Yeah. I think that's why people need to be very critical. Yeah. Right.
CB.
Look at the sign.
If you're still
it is
around,
1,000 times smaller than the mask, regular mask.
Make a cartoon of this. Of us all wearing zucchinis.
Everybody wearing zucchini.
Have Chris be like, zucchini, I thought you said bikini.
Face bikini. But yeah, like this video.
They look like napkins.
Hold on.
Did you guys get a chance to see that?
I was laughing at this comment over here. DG says, what is it? We made things too clean that weakened our immune system. Go drink from your hose.
Eat some dirt. Stare at the sun. Get some vitamin D.
No.
Oh, it looks like CB's working on a zucchini.
Yeah, go CB.
Awesome.
Oh my gosh, I'm excited.
Oh,
I'm
man.
literally working on it. This is going to be fantastic.
Hey, CB.
Zucchinis over the face.
Face bikinis.
Face
It might be
bikini,
more-
zucchini.
That's what I was
face
thinking.
bikini.
Zucchini bikini.
It might be more
Zucchini
effective.
face-
They're less porous.
What's that? Zucchinis are less
They
porous.
might be more effective. They're less porous.
So is duct tape.
We should do it.
Well,
Chris, we should
They have
get out there.
vitamins in
We
them.
should do a video with a couple of white lab coats and make an important announcement. Everybody must wear a zucchini.
Right.
Zucchini bikini.
Get
It
like
would
a
make more
zucchini.
sense, I think.
it would make as much sense.
Makes more sense than what's going on.
And make as much sense as a soup sandwich.
Yeah.
Gosh, it just shows you though how many doctors like have such different opinions. It's crazy.
Speaking of doctors with opinions, I think Chris was the one who sent this either
Yeah.
today or the day before. Can you guys see that on your screen?
Hold on, I'm not done with this zucchini.
Okay.
Jeremy says, is the zucchini cut open and made into a mask, or is it more like a ball gag zucchini? You know, I was kind of picturing it both ways in my head. I wasn't sure what the most effective kind of zucchini is. Is it a KN95 zucchini, or is it cloth? They had to do all the studies, right? They gotta. I don't have
Right.
the data in front of me. Is a cloth
Depends on
zucchini
what kind of
different? than
soil.
a-
Data
was
doesn't
grown
matter. Data does not matter.
It doesn't
Maybe
matter.
like a snorkel zucchini, maybe.
Snorkel zucchini.
Yeah.
Snorkini.
Okay.
Oh my
Or like
gosh.
the gimp zucchini.
The gimp zucchini from Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, that's right.
I got this
It's in the
spacesuit.
comment,
It's
yeah.
made out of zucchinis.
Right.
You guys can't tell me it's not effective.
This
Wear all
skin
my
of
leather
zucchini.
tomorrow at the gun show.
I have this mask. It's actually made out of fibers of mold. I feel like that's pretty effective against COVID.
What?
That's an
It's
immune
made out of
system
mold.
booster.
Yeah, it's
It'll
an
boost your
immune system booster.
It's like,
along with pneumonia. You know, you can mix certain
have you been
chemicals.
locked down in your home for the past year and a half? Have you not had exposure to anything?
Yes, I've been
We have the
gargling.
new mold.
I've been
mask.
gargling bleach.
CV says
The
And
mold
3M
pine
mask
salt.
is
zucchini.
for you.
3M zucchini.
3M zucchini.
I ordered my 3M zucchinis from not Amazon.
Yeah.
China made on. Those,
Ooh.
Quick,
No,
make
that's
it
really
quick
fine.
before China
Now
gets a
that's
hold of this
question, Philly
idea.
Chris. That's a question.
We should get zucchini masks and mustard masks. What do you think?
now we're
Yo, if we got a mask that was
Mustard.
like a bowl of mustard on the front, that would be great.
What about Bag of Bees t-shirts? What do you think? Bag of
Yeah.
Bees t-shirts?
Yeah, we need merch. We need merch. We need bag of bees. We need mustard. We need Cobra in a can. You know.
DG says when kids and husband had virus mid-February 2020, cough was unusual. Got them through it before we knew what was going on. When Mike G had coronavirus, the coronavirus went into his lungs and said, "Quick, everybody out! It smells like cigars in here. I can't take it anymore. Everybody out as quickly as possible."
Padron, everybody, Padron.
Turns
Virus
out
got of there-
cigars are the cure.
Virus got out of there as fast as it could.
That's
We're
right.
not
Oh, like
spending the
one
night
of
out
those
here.
Mucinex commercials.
Oh, yeah. You got a nice. You got a compliment there, Liberty. DG says you need Liberty masks.
Mm.
Oh, yeah.
there you go.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Liberty masks. Maybe we could do that.
Yeah.
They'd be
They're
perfect,
gonna
just
give.
like you.
They're gonna give Liberty a spin-off show.
Yeah. I'll take it.
CB says, "Mike, let me help with words. You got it." So, we're supposed to watch a video. We got 10
Yeah.
minutes left. You
I
got a
think-
10-minute video up here.
Uh,
I
this
think
one-
the
this one's
zucchini
7.
Conversation kind of like presets this video because
I'd
it's
like-
basically
Yeah,
saying
it takes
see the-
precedent. The zucchini conversation takes precedent.
yeah, like he basically says what you guys are saying in a different way.
Well, why don't we listen to
Oh,
a
really?
scientist say it?
Really? Okay.
No, but I mean, I think from what I've seen is that he's basically saying the masks are pointless.
Zucchinis. He talks about zucchini
Yeah.
in the video, right?
So I mean, what I'm saying is like
Have you
the
seen this
zucchinis
video, Mike?
would be better, best or better.
Yeah.
All right, let's see.
All
Let's
right.
see what we can. I'll tell you when to knock it off when I've had enough.
Okay, then.
Oh, I can't read that.
What's
Looks like
going
a
on
doctor's
here?
signature to me.
Well, that's why I can't read it. Oh.
Guilty as charged. Dr. Dan Stock, 5777 West 7 in North McCordsville, Indiana. To address your comment, gee, it's hard to believe we're 18 months into this and still having a problem, and I would suggest the reason we still have a problem is because we're doing things that are not useful, and we're getting our sources of information from the Indiana State Board of Health and the CDC, who actually don't bother to read science before they do this. I'm actually a functional family medicine physician. That means I am specially trained in immunology and inflammation regulation. And everything being recommended by the CDC and the State Board of Health is actually contrary to all the rules of science. So things you should know about coronavirus and all other respiratory viruses, they are spread by aerosol particles, which are small enough to go through every mask. By the way, the literature that supports all of that is in a flash drive that we presented to you. It's been given to the secretary. As a matter of fact, it quotes at least 3 studies sponsored by the NIH to that exact fact, even though the CDC and the NIH have chosen to ignore the very science that they paid to have done. That is why you keep struggling with this, is because you cannot make these viruses go away. The natural history of all respiratory viruses is that they circulate all year long, waiting for the immune system to get sick through the winter or become deranged, as has happened recently with these vaccines, and then they cause symptomatic disease. Because they cannot be filtered out, and they have animal reservoirs, and this is a very important point, no one can make this virus go away. The CDC has managed to convince everybody that we can handle this like we did smallpox, where we could make a virus go away. Smallpox had no animal reservoirs. The only thing it learned to infect was humans. That's why we were able to make that virus go away. That will not happen with this any more than it will with influenza, the common cold, respiratory syncytial virus, adenoviral respiratory syndromes, or anything else that has animal reservoirs. So the reason you can't do this is because you're trying to do something which has already been tried and can't be done. Equally important is that vaccination changes none of this, especially with this vaccine. And I would hope this board would start asking itself, before it considers taking the advice of the CDC, the NIH, and the State Board of Health, why we are doing things about this that we didn't do for the common cold, influenza, or respiratory syncytial virus. And then ask yourself, why is a vaccine that is supposedly so effective having a breakout in the middle of the summer when respiratory viral syndromes don't do that? And to help you understand that, you need to know the condition that is called antibody-mediated viral enhancement. That is a condition done when vaccines work wrong, as they did in every coronavirus study done in animals on coronaviruses after the SARS outbreak, and done in respiratory syncytial virus, where a vaccine used in a vulnerable individual done the wrong way, which cannot be done right for a respiratory virus which has a very low pathogenicity rate, causes the immune system to actually fight the virus wrong and let the virus become worse than it would with native infection. And that is why you are seeing an outbreak right now. And in fact, in that flash drive you're going to have coming to you and in the emails with 6 Extra will be a study showing that 75% of people who had COVID-19 positive symptom cases in Barnstable, Massachusetts outbreak were fully vaccinated. Therefore, there is no reason for treating any person vaccinated any differently than any person unvaccinated. You should also know that no vaccine, even the ones I support and would give to myself and my children, ever stops infection. In 2014, there was outbreak of mumps in the National Hockey League. The only people who came down the symptoms were the people who were unvaccinated or unknown vaccine status. Boy, that sounds like a great argument for vaccines. But a question that you should ask yourself, knowing that half of the people who came down with symptomatic disease had no contact with an unvaccinated or unknown vaccine status individual, where did they get the disease? And the answer was from the vaccinated individuals. No vaccine prevents you from getting infection. You get infected, you shed pathogen. This is especially true of viral respiratory pathogens. You just don't get symptomatic from it. So you cannot stop spread. You cannot make these numbers that you've planned on get better by doing any of the things you're doing, because that is the nature of viral respiratory pathogens. And you can't prevent it with a vaccine because they don't do the very thing you're wanting them to do. And you will be chasing this the remainder of your life until you recognize that the Center for Disease Control and the Indiana State Board of Health are giving you very bad scientific guidance. And instead, read the articles that are going to come on the email and are on this flash drive, and listen to the people in this audience here tonight who actually have recognized the advice they are getting from the CDC and the NIH is counterfactual. And that's why you're still fighting this with this vaccine that supposedly was going to make all of this go away, but has suddenly managed to make an outbreak of COVID-19 develop in the middle of the summer when vitamin D levels are at their highest. By the way, the other thing that would be necessary, any vaccine restriction to be considered, is if there were no other treatment available. And I can tell you, having treated over 15 COVID-19 patients, that between active loading with vitamin D, ivermectin, and zinc, that there is not a single person who has come anywhere near the hospital. And we already have studies that show that if you achieve a 25 hydroxy vitamin D level greater than 55, your risk of COVID-19 death will drop down to 1/4 of the population average for the United States. And there are active treatment trials included on that flash drive that show the same is true. So if you were going to discriminate based upon vaccine, you should also discriminate based upon 25 hydroxy vitamin D level, zinc taste test response, and probably previous infection, since there are also studies on that flash drive that show that people who have recovered from COVID-19 infection actually get no benefit from vaccination at all, no reduction in symptoms, no reduction in hospitalization, and suffer 2 to 4 times the rate of side effects if they are subsequently vaccinated. Therefore, the policies that you are basing on are totally counterfactual. I don't blame this board for that, because I know you aren't scientists and you've thought it was reasonable to listen to the CDC, NIH, and the Indiana State Board of Health. But I would encourage that instead you listen to the people out here in this audience and read what's on that data drive. And if anybody here in this board has any questions about anything on that, I will happily come back and sit with you individually if you would like to explain the science behind this. And if you're worried about being sued by somebody because you don't follow the guidance of the CDC and the NIH, I will tell you have a free pro bono expert testimony at your disposal. I will testify in defense of this board, turning down all these recommendations for free at any time in any court. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah. Powerful stuff. Good closing argument, right, Mike?
Interesting. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I love this
Interesting
turbo
something
nerd
for
stuff.
everybody to consider. It's interesting he's mentioning all the different factors, right?
Sure.
If you're looking at this, why aren't you looking at that? So I think that's in line with our zucchini discussion.
Yeah. I'd like to see the documents that he mentions. I'm going to see if there's a way to
We got to
find
get the
those online
doctor on the
somehow.
program, but we got to let him know ahead of time. All right, you're not allowed to say that the M word. You can only say zucchini instead.
That's right.
Of the doctor on here telling us all these different facts.
Quite compelling, though. Sounds like you know.
I love how he went into the details all turbo nerd style. Like just rattling all of them off. That was great.
Yeah.
I love that kind of stuff.
I mean, he's a doctor. Like, you know, you can get a second opinion still from a doctor, right?
Second opinion? What?
Yeah.
There's only one opinion, Philly Chris.
Right.
It's only one opinion, and it's the correct one.
And we will let you know which one it is.
Tomorrow at the gun show.
The Italian opinion.
Oh, what's his name?
Huh?
SM Durso says, this is an excellent video. My brother posted this video on his Facebook feed. The phony fact checkers tagged it partly false, of course. What about it was partly false, allegedly?
Yeah.
Oh, Facebook isn't going to tell you that.
No.
Because otherwise you could just dispute
What's the
them.
video called? What's the video called?
Oh, I have no idea. It's probably taken down by the overlords. I
You can just
downloaded a
Google
copy
it by
of that.
Mount Vernon. It was trending everywhere.
Yeah, it's gotten quite a few views. I mean, it's pretty interesting. I mean, the guy's really putting himself out there. He's willing to testify in
Here
court.
we go.
I mean,
Here we go. Factcheck.org. Indiana doctor piles on bogus COVID-19 claims in viral video.
Let's see if it's
Viral
still
video,
there.
an Indiana physician baselessly claimed that the COVID-19 vaccines, which have been shown to be safe and effective, fight the virus wrong and let the virus become worse than it would with native infection. Also incorrectly said no vaccine prevents infection and contended that people previously infected with COVID-19 do not benefit from vaccination, despite studies that suggest otherwise. Full story. Cascade of false and misleading claims undercutting public health guidance about COVID-19 has been widely circulating on social media. The video, viewed more than 4 million times on YouTube alone, features an Indiana doctor urging his school district to eschew guidance from this website is a little bit wacky with the way it's got pictures in the middle.
There's a
Guidance
link.
from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. On July 27th, the CDC cited the highly contagious Delta variant of the virus that causes COVID-19 when it recommended that everyone, students, teachers, staff, and visitors wear a mask inside schools regardless of vaccination status. The CDC has also emphasized the importance of vaccination in getting students back to in-person classes. Vaccination is the leading public health prevention strategy to end the COVID-19 pandemic, according to the CDC's guidance. Promoting vaccination can help schools safely return to in-person learning as well as extracurricular activities and sports.
Does that, I mean, it's the best approach, though?
Yes.
I don't know. The wording on it. I don't like
We've studied it and compared it to nothing else, and we've determined it's the best.
Prevention strategy.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean it's the best. It's just the leading one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's extremely popular.
Right.
The leading brand paper towels aren't exactly the best, right? The leading brand phone isn't the best.
McDonald's makes the most
put more
popular,
into the marketing.
McDonald's makes the most popular hamburger in the country, so it is clearly the highest quality hamburger in the country.
Yes, and totally not outranked by like Wendy's, who
like
doesn't cut
marketing
corners.
piece more than it sounds. He sounded like he was rattling science. I don't know. I'm
Not
gonna
the
look
why,
at the
right?
documents.
Right. They don't go to the why because the next one is
That's right.
promoting vaccination can help schools safely return to in-person learning as
Can.
well
Of
as
course it can.
extracurricular activities and sports.
Yeah.
Of course,
Why?
because that's
Why? What about
because
what he
that's
said,
what they're gonna. That's a policy thing. That's because their policy is take the stab and then you can come back to school. But is it really the healthiest thing? I mean, anyway.
We're just asking questions here. YouTube, you can stick a zucchini somewhere unpleasant if you disagree.
Yeah. Just clarifying, we're asking questions here.
Yes.
We're still allowed to do that, I think, for a little while.
As in, would you like me to provide the zucchini?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where are their studies?
We did them privately, and they're a secret, and you're not allowed to see them. But we did studies, and they show the things that we were saying are correct.
Yeah.
The type
Jeremy
of
makes a
language
point
was called reprisal when I was in Syria training. Siri? Sheer? We'll stop hurting this person if you give us what we want. Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like Munchausen syndrome or something.
I don't know what that is.
I think it's like a wilderness training or something, right?
EG says, great show tonight. We appreciate that. You think we're good for the good of the order? We got 2 hours to fill tomorrow at Oak's show as well, so we'll be back.
We're only doing 2 hours tomorrow?
Thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. It's an honor to be able to interview Robert Borelli. I enjoyed it. I had fun. I had fun with all of you. Thank you, everybody, for keeping the comments flowing. And looking forward to it. Maybe we should do some kind of an in-person round. We haven't done a round table in a long time.
No, that'd be good.
Right?
Does the table have to be round? Does the table have to be round? I don't want to be shapist.
Jeremy says survival, evasion, resistance, escape.
Sounds like a
That would
zombie
be good to get a
apocalypse.
round table, the comment section in person, basically, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
We need a bigger round table.
You know what? I think.
Hey, let's give Jeremy Miller a thank you for your service. Give it to him, Philly Chris.
Yes, thank you. Jeremy Miller, thank you for your service.
Hey now.
I don't know if I can top that one, Chris. Thank you for your service, Jeremy.
I do
Miller.
want to say this. We just started the text reminders.
Oh?
So if you're not on the text reminder, you're not in the text reminder group and want to be in the text reminder group, then you need to write into MikeGinthemorning.com and tell us, please put us on the text reminder group. We will put you on. And says CB says Mike, get Teddy on the show. We will for next week. But if you want to be on the text reminder group, write in at MikeGinthemorning.com. We will put you in the text reminder group where We're sending out blasts. I'm not trying to bombard anybody. I always hate when you get unsolicited text messages over and over again. But all we're doing, they just knock my camera out of the way.
Yeah, Mike.
Copy and paste
Way to
and
go,
bombard
Mike.
all your family and friends, though, please. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we'd love
Oh,
you to
boy.
share it. But ultimately, I think that all we're going to do is send out one reminder the day before the show, and then one reminder. Tonight we did 30 minutes prior to the show. So if you want to be on our text messaging list, go ahead, let us know right into the program at mikeinthemorning.com and tell us you want to be on our text messaging reminder list. We're not going to do it too much, right? So we'll just get you the day before, and then before the show, we'll remind you that the show is coming on. So that way you don't forget.
And then
Because I was making that joke. I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, where I got a text message in the middle of the program. Hey, is the show on tonight? Is one of my best friends on the planet.
Some best friend, right?
Only my family and best friends can't find where to watch the show, right? 100,000 people all over the country can figure it out.
And don't be like
Absolutely.
Philly
Yeah,
Chris
you're
and leave
right.
it on, and leave it unread.
Oh man.
Philly,
What is it?
Philly, don't be like Philly Chris and leave it on unread. Make sure you read your text messages.
Oh, Billy Chris just skipped over it.
Billy
Just
Chris.
skipped over it, right? He was.
I did see it. I didn't realize what you were talking about when you sent me the message.
Well, what do you mean?
Good to know. Good to know.
When you
Sorry,
asked
Philly
me
Chris.
if I saw it, I
had to
thought you
do
were
it.
talking about an email. I thought you were talking about an email, and not that I didn't realize what you were referring to.
What's an email?
My bad. I apologize.
You
I'll
always-
do
you
better
always
When you
must
said
not
text
watch
message,
like
did you
I'll-
mean email?
I'll do better next. I'll do better next time. I'm sorry, mother. Not mother. Hello.
That's fine.
So we're only doing 2 hours tomorrow?
Yes.
I feel like we're gonna. I feel like we're definitely gonna need more than 2 hours.
You just get there at 3 o'clock, Russ, and set everything up. We don't need another Lehigh Valley Tea Party. Where
I'm
the
gonna
show
need to get
starts
there
40
earlier than
minutes
that.
late.
What time are we getting there tomorrow?
We'll take care of this off the air, okay? They don't need to know the.
All right, sounds good.
Sure they do.
Come and see.
I think I get a kick out of the housekeeping. Just
Mike, are
saying.
you gonna buy us lunch tomorrow?
It's all on Mike.
Yeah, what does Russ want this time?
Oh, a cheeseburger. But not from that gross hamburger guy.
Get the
I hear he invented COVID.
That's Ronald McDonald.
name.
Thank you, everybody.
Lead
Getting DG, Miller, CB all said great show. Thank you to everybody. SM Durso, thank you, everybody. I'll write it and we'll do it live. So, does that mean to play us out? All right, I'm gonna play us out, Russ. Okay.
What does that mean?
Play some music again. like
Don't
last
forget
time.
your
Let's go.
headphones
Where's your
tomorrow,
guitar?
Mike.
Play some music.
Where's your cigar guitar?
This the guitar box.
Yeah, play us out with your guitar.
The guitar
You should
box.
bring that tomorrow.
It'll
Bring
save
it
me
to
the
gun
work
show.
of multi-tracking it.
Yeah, that would be fun. You know, I
Play
will
us out
say this.
live.
And we should probably talk about this. John from Monroe County, who came on the program, the New York escapee, professional musician, he sent me over something a couple of days ago, and it was about all the recommendations for not public gatherings, but public places and everything, how they should treat vaccinated versus unvaccinated.
Yeah, see, this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah. We should read that on the air. And it's like,
Okay.
he said, does this make you sick to your stomach or something like that? And I read
That's
it
why I
and
made
was
that
like,
comment earlier too, Mike. Like, I appreciate what you're saying, and I appreciate, but it's going. This isn't going a good direction if it continues, right?
I'm gonna make a
well, to me, it just seems like a post-apocalyptic movie or something like that, right?
guys.
right.
We're watching I Am Legend or whatever it is.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I've about had enough.
I'm gonna make a comparison, and Let me know what you guys think. So, vaccinated versus unvaccinated people, are we going to have our own water fountains and our own classrooms? Are we going to be separate but equal?
No, you
get carried away.
You won't even have a water fountain because you're going to be on.
You're not allowed to have water unless you're vaccinated.
Yeah.
That would make more sense out of anything, wouldn't it? If you're worried about the spread of disease.
I guess.
You wouldn't send everybody to the same stores.
Only drink out of a hose. That's it. Shut up. Right, Listen to DG drink out of the hose. That's all the time we've got for today, folks. Stick around for We the People, the Constitution Matters. Pastor David Whitney, Professor Phil Duffy. I'll be joining as your legal analyst. We miss you, Ellie. Daddy loves you.